in particular today is What the Fuck Wednesday. Thank you for joining. We know you have many choices to make every single day, and we're super grateful you guys choose to spend some time with us. So thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Appreciate yourself. We appreciate you being here. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. Don't forget about joining our team. There's a gifting goal today. Please use those features. And apparently if you go into my profile, there's like a community gift. I don't know anything about that shit. You guys know me. But if there's something you need to do yeah, go ahead and do that. Thank you. We are still crowdfunding as we're marching towards our 25K goal for the Do Something tour. We stand at $7,596. You want to support the cause, you can do so at the various pay apps, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. They're all at Factsstillmatter. Thank you for that in advance. Appreciate you. You can head on over to the link tree that's in my bio. You'll find the link to our Discord channel. Please consider subscribing there. It's free. We just ask that you go through the verification steps. All kinds of other resources available too that's in our link tree. You could just scroll down the list. One in particular I want to call your attention to, which is the Facts merch store. We call it Facts HQ. You can find it also at factsstillmatter.site. Lots of really cool merchandise, especially as we are approaching protest season, so to speak. Lots of cool items so that you can show your support for the resistance. Because at the end of the day, joy is resistance too. But head over there, pick something up. Brand new item in the merch store, by the way, ABCDEF fuck ice. I'm a big fan of that one. Also big fan of human rights. Just do something oriented swag. Go on over and check it out. Once again, thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Our daily check-in, by the way, gas prices nationally, $3.84. Damn, all that winning. It's up 5 cents since yesterday. $3.84 today, $3.79 yesterday, $3.57 a week ago, $2.92 a month ago, and $3.07. We'll round it up, $3.08 a year ago. But all that winning. I'm so happy about all that winning. We're going to get into that a little bit today. We're also going to talk quite a bit about Pam Bondi's on the hot seat. Kristi Noem's name is back in. There's a criminal referral potentially pending for her. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Russia today because there's all kinds of money now involved. We're going to break down how the president has not divested himself from his businesses, which we, of course, know, which means that he's been enriching himself to the tune of billions of dollars, himself and his family. We're going to get into that as well. It is, by the way, it is day 89 of the Department of Justice under the Trump administration violating federal law by not releasing everything connected to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Shocker. Shocker, shocker, shocker. But as you know, it is Women's History Month. And I thought today I found this great poem. This gentleman's name is Dara Fleming. I just, no words. I'll just play it for you and you guys can, as we celebrate women and girls everywhere. Here you go.
If I ever have girls, they'll be feared by weak men. But to everyone else, they'll be a consistent friend. They'll never lack meaning. They'll be gentle and kind while breaking every glass ceiling. They'll take up space and they'll like what they like. They won't be taught to reduce themselves or hide. My girls will be feared by weak men. They'll demand respect because they deserve it. They will always know love. They'll never feel they have to earn it. They'll know their value is inherent, has nothing to do with their looks. They will be leaders, be healers, write wrongs, write books. They'll be mothers one day if they so choose, but their value won't be defined by the use of their wombs. They will be whatever lives in their hearts. They will know dreams are there to be chased from the start. My girls will know poetry and song. They'll know I will listen when something feels wrong. They'll learn that women are too emotional is an original lie. And they will not grow up with a father who refuses to cry.
Preach.
So yeah, my girls may make some weak men shake in their knees. They won't be the women society expects. They'll be the women society needs.
Yeah, the gentleman's name is Dara Fleming. He's obviously an Irish lad. Daragh Fleming. You can if you just search for "If I Ever Have Girls," you can find it that way. I heard that a couple years ago, and I was like, "Yep, that spoke to me." So, girl dads, unite. Girl moms, we already know the important role you have, but I love that. So again, the gentleman's name is Dara, Daragh Fleming, Fleming. So there you go, girl dads. All right, so let's get into a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. We have to talk about the SAVE Act. So the SAVE Act, there was a vote. They agreed. It's a bit surprising they agreed for debate, and it's not going to go anywhere. I just want to make sure people understand that. So let me give you the update. The Senate voted Tuesday to take up a far-reaching voting bill that President Trump has demanded Congress pass before the midterms, but the legislation has no path to passing, even as senators prepare for days of intense debate. This is reported by the Washington Post. Senate Democrats have vowed to block the bill, known as the Save America Act, which they warn would make it harder to vote. The bill would require voters to prove they're U.S. citizens before registering to vote and to show photo ID when voting, among other provisions. Republicans who control the Senate do not have the 60 votes they need to overcome the Democratic filibuster, nor do they have enough votes to attempt a riskier gambit that some Republican senators favor, attempting to exhaust Democrats by forcing them to speak on the Senate floor for weeks to block the bill, known as a talking filibuster. Instead, the Senate voted yesterday 51-48 to start debate on the bill, a vote that required only a majority. One Republican, Lisa Murkowski, voted with the Democrats. Starting debate, Tom Tillis did not vote. There was some reporting that maybe Mitch McConnell would be a no. Doesn't matter. Republicans are expected to spend days, potentially including nights and weekends, making the case for the bill on the Senate floor, according to two people familiar with the process who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe it. Quote, "The votes aren't there to do a talking filibuster," Senate Majority Leader John Thune said. "So what we are going to do is we're going to have a fulsome debate on the floor of the United States Senate." It's performative bullshit. He knows it's not going to pass. The votes aren't there. They're not going to nuke the filibuster. It's not going to happen. So this is strictly performative. They want to try to put Democrats on the record, but there's Republicans that don't support this either. So let's be honest. It is what it is. The expected marathon speeches will not bring Senate Republicans any closer to passing the bill, but they could bring attention to the changes to voting that Trump has demanded. In some ways, the strategy resembles a 21-hour speech that Senator Ted Cruz made in 2013, opposing the Affordable Care Act, or the 25-hour speech that Senator Cory Booker delivered last year criticizing Trump. Although those speeches were made by senators in the minority, not the majority. Trump has made the bill a top priority, declaring that he would not sign any other legislation until Congress passes it. He pledged on Tuesday never to endorse any Republicans who votes against it. Now, that's not necessarily the kiss of death that it used to be, because there's been Republicans that have been supported by or endorsed by Trump so far this election cycle. And those candidates have failed and floundered miserably. All right, some Republicans have criticized only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act, Trump wrote on social media. Okay, but some Republicans have criticized their party's plan to debate the bill for days, even though it has no shot at passing. There isn't any strategy, said Tom Tillis. There is a 0% chance of this bill succeeding. Murkowski said her constituents are concerned about election integrity, but they also want Washington to take up other priorities, such as addressing the cost of housing and rising diesel prices. If you don't think you can win on it, why are you going into the debate in the first place, Murkowski said. Exactly. Other Republicans insist the Senate needs to do everything possible to pass the bill, and even raise the prospect that Republicans could change their minds and decide to pursue the talking filibuster strategy after all. We've got to stay on the bill until it becomes law, said Mike Lee, who's the sponsor. There can be no surrender. There can be no ifs, ands, or buts. There can be no cheap imitations here. It's not going to pass. It's just not going to pass. Eric, you're so cute. Host has TDS. Nope, Eric, you have TDS, which is Trump denial syndrome. So see how I can play that too? Have a nice day, Eric. Again, it's not going anywhere. Okay, we're gonna get into some rhetoric from Mike Johnson. We're gonna it's an embarrassing moment for Bitch Boy. Actually, Bitch Boy's gonna be featured a little bit this morning as we go through the day. But I do want to report some exciting news, because there was an election yesterday in Illinois, and Democrat Juliana Stratton, a black woman in Illinois, who, by the way, put out an ad that said "fuck Trump" in it, and she won the primary with 40% of the vote, a 7-point margin over her primary competitor, Raja Krishnamurthy. This was the marquee race to replace Senator Dick Durbin, as we know. Stratton is endorsed by J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker won his nomination. This is a heavy blue state. Very likely she's going to win the general election. and there'll be another black woman in the United States Senate. She's a badass. Really like Juliana Stratton. So congratulations to her. It's a big day yesterday. And as we continue to move our ways through, the elections. So, Eric, why do you think I have TDS? See what I mean? You sit in the chat, you make comments, and then you have an opportunity to talk to prove that you're not a mashed potato without seasoning. You get your opportunity, you get your chance, and then you do that. So yeah, what the fuck Wednesday totally tracks. Like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Yeah. Anyway. So that was a good day yesterday in Illinois. Thank you, the Illinois voters, for turning up. 40% of the vote. She's now the heavy favorite in November. She wins. She'd make history as one of very few black women in the United States Senate. Don Tracy won the GOP primary and will face Stratton in November. J.B. Pritzker, the incumbent, essentially unopposed. He got his primary. He will take on Darren Bailey as a Republican winner. It's a rematch from 2022. Pritzker won by 13 points. Also, in Illinois 2, the Democratic primary, Donna Miller defeated Jesse Jackson Jr. Illinois 9, Daniel Bliss won a crowded race. Illinois 15, Republican Mary Miller, the incumbent, won big by 73%. Democrat Jennifer Todd won a competitive primary. A lot of these are safe districts, likely to flip here and there, although you never know. Secretary of State in Republican Diane Harris was nominated. Multiple competitive state legislatures. And the turnout in some areas like Madison County was relatively low, which is not good news. Illinois, please, you need to step up a little bit more. Pritzker flexed major political influence because his candidates all won their primaries. Democrats remain dominant statewide. Several longtime incumbents are retiring. Again, Dick Durbin being the primary one. And then outside money, crypto groups, APAC, PACs played a big role in multiple races. Something to pay attention to, as you guys know, as in a democratic socialist type of government and or progressive politics, I want as much money out of politics as possible. Like, I fully support overturning Citizens United. I would ban lobbying. In fact, I would go so far to say if you were a lobbyist, you cannot serve in Congress. And you cannot become a lobbyist within 5 years after leaving Congress. That's how serious it is to me. But anyway, it's a big day yesterday. All right, so we touched on the SAVE Act. Now, a few things that I really want to talk about, because I think this story about Joe Kent is really being underreported. So this is, I'll play the sound from the president first, and then we'll talk about who Joe Kent is and why this is pretty significant, in my opinion.
Director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
You hired him.
I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago.
What?
You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when
what?
Somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat.
What? So let me get this straight. Let me think about the timeline here. So during the Obama administration, the JCPOA was signed. We had regulators from the IAE and other intelligence organizations investigating Iran's nuclear capabilities. They were within the ranges, a little spike here and there, but they were allowing inspectors in. We know the history. Like, we don't need to relitigate it, okay? So Trump pulls us out of that deal. and then tries to gaslight the American public to say, if I did not pull us out of that deal, they would have had a nuke. Give me a fucking break. What the fuck? Again, just listen to this again. Listen to this.
Mr. President, your director of national counsel.
Listen to Peepaw's delusion.
He just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
Bro, you fucking hired him. Maybe not you directly, but what?
I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war.
So if I didn't terminate the deal that was limiting Iran's production of nuclear-related materials, there would have been a war. What?
4 years ago.
What?
You would have had nuclear holocaust.
What?
And you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess, that would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat.
Okay. The fuck, Peepaw. So let's go. This is what we need to know about Joe Kent. So what to know about the resignation of Joe Kent as Trump's counterterrorism chief. This is reported by the AP. This came out last night around 11 o'clock. The U.S. counterterrorism official who resigned Tuesday had been a staunch supporter of the president through his 2020 election defeat, the J6 riots, and years of conservative media advocacy and failed congressional bids. First of all, probably not the best person to be in charge of counterterrorism and, an election denier, a January 6th rioter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's one thing. We'll just put that over there. We'll put that on the shelf, okay? But Trump's war in Iran and his alliance with the I country, with Israel, against the Islamic clerics who led the Tehran government were too much for Joe Kent. Resigning as director of the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, Kent said, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and he asserted that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Well, a 45-year-old Special Forces combat veteran with ties to far right-wing extremists, Kent was considered as much of a loyalist as Trump could have in the government's top counterterrorism post. So think about that for a second. This guy is considered, when they talk about the loyalty pledge, that's what's required. Competence is irrelevant if you want to be in Trump's government. You just need to be loyal. You just need to have your knee pads. You need to have your lip balm, whatever. Your taint sniffing tactics all buttoned up. And this guy checked off every fucking box. This guy was a hardcore Trump loyalist. And now he himself has said, I'm fucking done. I'm done. There is no imminent threat. We as in the United States started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Wow. A 45-year-old Special Forces combat vet with ties to far-right extremists, Kent was considered as much a loyalist as Trump could have had in the government's top counterterrorism post. Kent's stated reasons for resigning run counter to Trump's insistence that Iran was poised to attack the U.S. On the 28th of February, the day the U.S. and Israel launched the first attack, Trump said this about Iran, quote, its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. In a resignation letter to Trump, Kent countered that high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign to encourage a war with Iran. Tulsi Gabbard, whose office oversaw Kent's work, wrote in a social media post Tuesday that it was up to Trump to decide whether Iran posed a threat. Quote, After carefully reviewing all the information before him, the president concluded that the terrorist Islamic regime in Iran posed an imminent threat so he took action based on that conclusion. Gabbard wrote in that post, she did not mention her own views of the strikes. Of course she wouldn't do that. Of course not. Wow. His reference to Israel and claims about Jewish Americans' political influence highlight Kent's previous ties to anti-Semitism and right-wing extremism. It's an anti-Semitic trope to suggest Jewish Americans have disproportionately control of media narratives. During his Senate confirmation hearings, Kent acknowledged that during one of his 2 failed congressional campaigns, a political consultant set up a call joined by Nick Fuentes. A popular right-wing influencer, Fuentes has said that, quote, Jews are holding the U.S. hostage, and once proclaimed that, quote, Schmittler was awesome, Schmittler was right. This guy, Joe Kent, who was put in charge of U.S. counterterrorism, frequented Nick Fuentes' podcasts and referenced him often. But nothing to see here. Before running for Congress, Kent echoed a conspiracy theory that federal agents had somehow instigated the J6 2021 attack at the Capitol, as well as false claims that Trump won the 2020 election over President Biden. Kent has called for the impeachment of Biden and an investigation into the 2020 election. He's also called for defunding the FBI after the search at Mar-a-Lago's home for classified documents. Kent later disavowed some of his right-wing ties and said he rejected all racism and bigotry. During his Senate hearings, he declined to distance himself from his 2020 election denialism. That's that guy. I just got a flag. Let me do this then. Everybody tap like crazy. I'll be right back.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guest or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. We now return you to our regularly scheduled pandemonium, already in progress.
Just think about that for a second, right? This guy has he checks every single box of the far right extremists and all of their election denialism, their anti-Semitism, their far right, anti-trans rhetoric, their anti-immigration rhetoric. And this is the guy who's put in charge of counterterrorism. Even he was like, listen, I'm fucking loyal to a fault, my dude. I can't support this anymore. More on Joe Kent. An intel veteran, Kent was in charge of assessing terrorist threats. Kent was confirmed in July on a 52-44 Senate vote that fell almost entirely along party lines. Every Democrat opposed his nomination, citing his right-wing ties. Senator Tom Tillis was the lone GOP vote against Kent's confirmation. In his post, Kent led an intelligence agency that was created after the 9/11 attacks to analyze and detect terrorist threats. Among other tasks, the agency maintains the U.S. government's list of known and suspected terrorists. Before his confirmation, Kent worked as chief of staff for Gabbard. A former Green Beret, Kent was deployed to 11 combat missions, mostly in Iraq, during 20 years in the Army. After his retirement in 2018, he became a paramilitary officer with the CIA and served as a counterterrorism advisor to Trump's 2020 presidential campaign. He was a regular on conservative cable shows and podcasts before and during his 2022 and 2024 failed congressional bids. Kent's first wife, Shannon Smith, was a Navy cryptologist unalived by a suicide bomber in 2019 while fighting the Islamic State group in Syria. After Smith's death, Kent spoke out against U.S. intervention around the world. Quote, "That is why I have skepticism of our federal government," he said of his wife's death, adding that she died because, quote, "Republicans and Democrats consistently lied to the American people to keep us engaged in wars abroad." During the U.S.'s chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, Kent tore into defense industries and permanent ruling class in Washington. He suggested some proponents of foreign nation building were naive, while others were driven by far more cynical moves. Quote, "It speaks to our hubris," Kent told reporters while campaigning for Congress. "For us not to have learned from all this just shows that there are people making money and making their careers at the end of it. They've been doing it on the backs of dead bodies of U.S. soldiers." So, well, hang on a second. A little bit more to this. During his confirmation hearing, Democratic senators peppered Kent with questions about his participation in a group chat on Signal that was used by Trump's national security team discussing sensitive military plans. In the Signal chat, which mistakenly included a journalist at the Atlantic, showed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth providing the exact timing of warplane launches, and when bombs would drop in attacks against Yemen's Houthis in March of last year. The disclosure of typically classified information came before the men and women flying those attacks were airborne. It became an embarrassing flashpoint for the administration, although they didn't give a shit, though Hegseth, Kent, and others faced no consequences from the president. So that guy has been, in the know, so to speak. He was the one that was brought in by the National Security Agency. He's the one that was part of the leaked Signal chat, far-right extremist, and even he has reached the point now where he's done. That tells you a lot. That really, really tells you a lot. Anyway, so it's hard to talk about. This is what the fuck, right? What the fuck? Because you continue to hire the most incompetent people. You don't have we know this entire administration's plan is just to surround themselves with loyalists. So this is where we sit now. We have loyalists running the show, not people who are competent. As long as you have your job, as long as you are loyal to the president, it doesn't matter your background. You say nice things about this guy and you're going to get whatever you want, including, access to sensitive information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, people are going to take the fall. Christine Nome is now there's now going to be a criminal referral. I'll get into that in just a second. But Pam Bondi has now been subpoenaed. And what's interesting in this subpoena, I'm going to read you the letter that she was sent by Congress. James Comer signed off on this. This would mean, because she's subpoenaed, which means that members of Congress, Republican members of the committee, had to agree to get her to come to a hearing and testify. This is the letter that was sent out yesterday from to the Honorable Pamela J. Bondi, AG. Dear Attorney General Bondi, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is reviewing the possible mismanagement of the federal government's investigation of Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell, the circumstances and subsequent investigation of Mr. Epstein's death, the operation of sex trafficking rings and ways for the federal government to effectively combat them, the ways in which Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell sought to curry favor and exercise influence to protect their illegal activities, and potential violations of ethics rules related to elected officials. On March 4th of 2026, the committee voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize and issue a subpoena for you for a deposition. Pursuant to this direction, please see the attached subpoena for you to appear at a deposition on April 14th, 2026. Mark your calendars, friends. The committee has questions regarding the DOJ's handling of the investigation into JE and his associates and its compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. As Attorney General, you are directly responsible for overseeing the department's collection review and determinations regarding the release of files pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And the committee therefore believes that you possess valuable insight into these efforts. The committee may use the results of this investigation to inform legislative solutions to improve federal efforts to combat sex trafficking and reform the use of non-prosecution agreements and/or plea agreements in sex crime investigations. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is the principal oversight committee of the U.S. House and has broad authority to investigate, quote, any matter at any time under House Rule X. Further, pursuant to House Rule Clause 2K6, the chair shall receive and the committee shall dispose of requests to subpoena additional witnesses. Additionally, House Rule 11, Clause 2, M1B grants committees of the House of Representatives the authority to require, by subpoena or otherwise, the attendance and testimony of such witnesses and the production of such books, records, correspondence, memoranda, papers, and documents as it considers necessary. If you have any questions regarding the subpoena, please contact Committee on Oversight Reform at Majority Staff at 202-225-5074. Sincerely, James Comer, Chairperson. That's pretty significant. So somebody just said plead the fifth. Listen, I think the odds are 50-50 that she resigns before she has to testify. She's got absolutely, it's a lose-lose situation for her if she goes. Because she has lied under oath. There's no doubt that she has lied under oath. There is absolutely no doubt that she has lied under oath. So you want to do it again? So just to follow up on that, I think it's Ellie Koenig, who is an exceptional, one of the good journalists that are out there. I'm going to play some sound. He appeared on Pamela Brown's show and listen to how he answered this question when asked if he was involved in questioning her. Here you go.
If you were a lawmaker, regardless of party, on the House Oversight Committee?
So many questions that Pam Bondi has to answer. I've narrowed it down to these 5 quick ones. First of all, is there any active criminal investigation of anybody around Jeffrey Epstein right now? Yes or no? Exactly. Second of all, several of Jeffrey Epstein's victims and survivors have requested to meet with you, Madam Attorney General, or other responsible decision makers at DOJ. Have you given them those meetings, and will you meet with them? Third of all, have you followed the flow of money? We learned today there was a settlement by Bank of America with several of Jeffrey Epstein's survivors. Yeah. Have you tracked down all of his money? Yeah. If so, what has been done with it? Fourth of all, who at DOJ is responsible for the revelation of victim identifying information that came out temporarily in the Epstein files? Is that on you? And has anyone been held accountable? And fifth and finally, there are several redactions in the Epstein files of the names of men who are clearly engaged in wrongdoing. People who are emailing with Jeffrey Epstein about women, people who are named as potential co-conspirators, but the law says you cannot redact those. Will you unredact those names? As we sit here now, Caitlin, all of those questions remain unresolved.
April 14th is the date. She has more to lose, right? She's got more to lose. Those are legit questions, because those are questions that come from her violation of the law, day 89 of Pam Bondi and the Trump administration and the DOJ violating federal law, which is the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So she's got a lot of questions she's going to have to answer, and she would not agree to testify. Well, we'll see. She's been subpoenaed now, right? She's been subpoenaed. So if she doesn't show, there'll be a criminal referral to her own DOJ. So that's likely not going to happen. I don't think she's going to answer questions. I feel like she might resign because she can't defend this. She's violating the law. I mean, she's literally breaking the law. There's no way around that. She's not released everything. They've redacted names of alleged perpetrators. She unredacted names of alleged survivors and victims, right? That's part of the situation. Where are the indictments? Where are the charges? This is what she doesn't understand. This is what she's in trouble. Let's put it that way. Yell Nat, how are you today?
Not bad. I could say this about Miss Pam Bondi. She can burn the sides of double hockey sticks, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So I've heard on read in four fronts that the British government has come to the conclusion that Jared Kushner is the reason why that Trump was antagonized to go start a conflict with Iran. The second thing is his conspiracy theorists who ran the terrorism branch of DHS or Homeland Security?
Intelligence Agency, NIH. You're talking about Joe Kent?
Yeah. So his base is 25% of conspiracy theorists. And for him to write that letter of resignation goes to show you
yeah, false flag. Let's be careful about that. Hold on, sir. Let's be careful about that. Like you said, that's just
we love the TikTok shop.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Hold on. It's okay. Look, we're talking about conspiracies. Obviously, that is something people are talking about. Obviously, people have discussed it. There's conversations about false flag events. We just try to be clear here. We don't want to post something or state something to be truthful. I know you're alluding to it as being part of a conspiracy, and yes, that's true.
The second thing is he's probably hoping that gas reaches a certain level or a certain price where he's said on numerous occasions that he's going to use energy crisis to subvert or stop the election. That was him that said that. This is not a conspiracy. The third thing is we all know he's just trying to cover up for the e-files. I mean, from what it's looking like right now, statistically on the betting markets right now, the Democrats have shot up to 50-50 into taking back the Senate. And I've said this to Hal in New York. If the Democrats were to take back the Senate, he will not be able to appoint any judges any way, shape, or form. And from what it looks like, we might have a repeat of 2018. I mean, as of right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat is currently in favor of a Democrat. I believe he served in the military as a
well, not in favor. He won the primary, but it's still a heavily red district. So if you combine the votes of the two Republicans who finished after him, they have more votes than Mr. Harris got. So we've got, it's still an uphill fight there. I'm not, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but it's still a math game.
But last facts, the last thing I want to talk to you about or say on this panel is my friend and I were talking about the Democrats are doing the same bullshit that they did in 24. Oh, if it's not Jasmine Crockett, I'm not going to help elect James. Help me out. Last name?
Tallarico.
Well, I'm not going to help elect James Tallarico because Jasmine Crockett lost the primary. It was taken from her, this and that. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, did you not learn 2 years ago what happened when you did that? Either you're on the far left, where some of us would call online leftists who follow a trend and regurgitate falsehoods about how Biden handled the situation in Gaza, which he did the best he could. In other countries confirmed that he tried to do a peace treaty. But like I said, it's looking like we're doing the same thing, because I've said this to friends. You got to vote blue. You talk about wanting to have all these nice things like free healthcare, a decently priced school or college or free state college, whatever it is. But you're gonna and you're gonna go do the same bullshit we told you not to do, but you want to do it again. Right now, you're facing a bleak future where you might be over surveilled. That's number one. Number two, it's even more dangerous to go outside, because when Joe Biden was in office, all you had to worry about was him possibly having a medical issue on stage and him being replaced by Kamala Harris because of his age. That's the only thing you had to worry about for 4 years. Now you have the imminent. What's that?
I said more or less.
But like I said, I don't understand. My age group is doing the same nonsense again the last 2 years. I can't even trust I just can't trust it. I just can't trust it.
I agree. I mean, this is why we talk about this every single day, about people on the left really have got to understand what's at stake here and focus on harm reduction. And thanks for jumping in today, Yelnat. I appreciate you, friend.
All right, anytime.
You have a good day. Be safe out there. It's right. I mean, no real notes, quite frankly. That's the fight that we're in here. All right, I want to just revisit something. So we're going to hear a little bit from Bitch Boy today. For those of you who are just joining us, thank you for being here. I'm Facts Steve. We go live every Monday through Friday, 8 till noon Eastern time. And then occasionally on a Friday night, we call it Facts After Dark. You might see me around the TikTok streets, but in general, we're here to try to poke holes in misinformation, disinformation, propaganda. We look at our show as educational and informative, and we are working on taking our show on the road. We call it the Do Something Tour. You can find information out about that in the link tree that's in my bio. You can go to the Instagram page, and that will explain to you what it is that we're doing. If you want to support us, you can at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. I refer to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, as my bitch boy because he is my bitch boy. And when I go to DC, I am going to find FaceTime with bitch boy. There's no doubt on my mind. It will be what Fax wants for Christmas is that. So I will camp out outside his office if I have to, just to put him on blast. I'll be respectful at first. I might even wear a suit. I'll wear a suit and I'll wear a tie, and I'll be respectful. I'll be polite. I'll approach it journalistically. But as he's walking away, I'm going to say, "Hey, Mr. Speaker Johnson, do you know that every single day I call you bitch boy?" And then we'll see what happens. But that's just me. All right. So this was about the legislation, the SAVE Act. So he's put on blast because, as we know, I'm going to get into the data in just a second. Well, here you go.
The president has said that the Save America Act is his number one priority.
Yeah.
And when making the argument to Democrats to vote yes for this, because it will require Democrat votes to pass, can you give for me one example of fraud conducted in a previous election that the Save America Act would prevent?
Look, we're not going to litigate all that. I can tell you what I'll tell Democrats. You should listen to the American people.
Okay, listen to the American people. So meaning when you're asked a question about, give us an example of voter fraud, Mike, you don't have any. You don't have any. So I refer to this often, which is the, hang on a second. This is, the Heritage Foundation did this massive research study, and I've shared a little bit with you guys in the past, and I want to do it again because I think it's necessary, because our mainstream legacy media is not covering it like we do. We have the advantage of being able to do it this way. Heritage Foundation's main voter fraud report, okay, this has been summarized. This is from election fraud maps. This is from Politico. This is from the Heritage Foundation. This is the data that they pulled. What their numbers show. Going back to 1982, a total of 1,513 total fraud cases nationwide in our elections. Only 68 documented cases of non-citizen voting since 1980, and just 10. Not 100,000, as my son used to say when he was little. Not 10,000, not 1,000, but 10. So more than 1 billion ballots cast, 10. That equates to 0.0000000 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 zeros, 764%. Exactly, 100,000 per capita. That's exactly right. So this is a non-issue. This is voter suppression. That's all this is. It's got nothing to do with election integrity, nothing to do with it at all. Now, if you were to, I will say this. If the United States government decided that we will provide passports to every single U.S. citizen, free of charge, then sure, no problem. That's not going to happen. And because it's not going to happen, this SAVE Act is going nowhere. It is not going to pass. There's not enough votes for it. It's not going to survive the filibuster. Why the fuck are we wasting time on it? It's because the president wants it. And because bitch boy, who's literally a bitch, has nothing to do other than try to sniff the taint. I don't know if he can get his nose any further up Trump's ass, quite frankly. But what the fuck, Mike? Why are you fucking lying? Stop. All right, so more from bitch boy today. The president has gone on the record saying, the war will be over, when he feels it in his bones. Remember that famous statement? Well, this is how Bitch Boy responds to that.
President Trump recently has said that the war in Iran will be over when he feel it in my bones. What does he mean by that?
Well, I think his bones are informed by the intelligence, okay?
I'm sorry, what? You think his bones are informed by the intelligence? Mike, is that the message that you left on your way out the door? Mike, you think his bones are informed by the intelligence? Okay. Okay.
Okay, so look, it's the commander-in-chief, whomever is the president, whomever is the commander-in-chief, under our constitutional system, is given a broad amount of latitude and authority. Their decisions are informed by all the intelligence and the experts, a large panel of them from the Joint Chiefs of Staff on down, who come in and advise the president. Every president makes a gut decision, and hopefully they make a prayerful decision. I think this president will as well. He's getting great advice from great people, and I'm very encouraged about where we are. I think this will wind down quickly, and it's going to be in the best interest of America.
What? It is? It is? How? How is it in the best interest of America, Mike? Well, I did a little bit of investigating for you because we are running at roughly $1 billion a day. That's been the number so far. So let's assume that the war, because that's what it is, MAGA, it's a war. We all know what it is. The reason we know that it is because I would encourage you to walk up to a Vietnam War veteran or a Korean War veteran or an Afghanistan war veteran or an Iraqi war veteran. I would encourage you to walk up to any of them and tell them that it wasn't a war just because Congress didn't declare it as such. We know what the fuck it is. And we're spending around $1 billion a day. So I was curious, how would $30 billion, let's assume a month, okay? How would $30 billion impact social service programs in our country? Let's see, shall we? All right. $30 billion could expand ACA subsidies and lower premiums for millions of middle-class families, fully fund community health centers for years, and cover millions of uninsured people with basic care. We roughly spend between $10 and $15 billion a year, significantly would expand coverage access, and could reduce uninsured rates by a few percentage points nationally. Fewer people skipping doctor visits and fewer medical bankruptcies. Is that a good thing? Okay. How about food assistance? $30 billion would increase SNAP benefits nationwide for a year, provides free school meals for all students for multiple years. This is from the Kaiser Family Foundation, by the way, and expand summer food programs for kids. Is that a good investment of our money? 30 billion? Okay. What else we have here? We have, how about housing and the houseless population? $30 billion could build or subsidize hundreds of thousands of affordable housing units, could expand housing vouchers, Section 8, to millions more families and fund homelessness reduction programs nationwide. $25 to $30 billion could house a large share of chronically homeless individuals, one of the fastest ways to visibly reduce poverty in cities. Would that be a good use of $30 billion? All right. Child care and early education. $30 billion could subsidize child care costs for millions of American families, expand Head Start, universal pre-K in multiple states, and cap child care at a 1% of an income like proposals in recent bills. It could cut child care costs by thousands of dollars per family annually. Would that be a good way to spend $30 billion? Education, K through 12 plus college access. $30 billion would increase Title I funding for low-income schools significantly, expand Pell Grants for college students, fund after-school and tutoring programs nationwide. Pell Grant expansion alone could help millions of students. How about mental health and addiction? Build a nationwide mental health provider network with $30 billion. You could expand crisis response, the 988 system, and fund addiction treatment programs like the opioid crisis, for example. It could dramatically reduce wait times and untreated mental illness. You could also expand the child tax credit like it did in 2021, provide direct payments to families. Would that be a good idea? You see what I mean? I mean, this is maths. You're welcome, Obi. But where are we spending our money? Now, we can have this debate. We've had this debate numerous times. You guys have seen me in lives, and I've even done it here when I say, okay, is food a right? And the pro-life evangelical crowd, right, doesn't think that food is a right. Well, I do, and most of us do. But here we are. You're faced with the prospect of spending $30 billion on a war that no one wants because the president really felt like he was going to get a bump in the polls like George Bush did after 9/11. Well, no, didn't happen. In fact, it's gone the other way. So $30 billion on a war that nobody wants, that we're only there because Putin and others and Bibi have leverage on our president. Yes, I said that. So anyway, it's about priorities. It's about priorities. And we talk about waste, and we talk about fraud, and we talk about abuse in government. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no bigger example of waste, fraud, and abuse than the military-industrial complex, the Department of Defense, and our government currently. But we could do a lot with $30 billion. We could do a lot with half of that. We could do a lot with a quarter of that. But no, we're totally fine spending $1 billion a day on more fucking bullshit. On more bullshit. Good morning, Eris. How are you today?
Oh, good. How are you, Steve?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I wanted to know, did you know that there is a Strait of Hormuz monitor where you can see how many ships are going through and how many are waiting and how much money is being lost because the strait is closed?
I did see that. Yeah, a gentleman did who was an expert on logistics in that part of the world. We'll try to get some video of that, but I did know that. Yeah, it's staggering to see.
Currently, there's 9. Yesterday, there was only 2. Now 9 have gone through, so people are making deals, and that's not good for the U.S. because that means that they're selling in yuan or in won, and that's not.
Correct.
No, it's yen, right? Is it yen or is it yuan that they use in China?
The yuan. It's the yuan. That's what they want for
that's right.
for the currency transfer of oil. Yeah.
So there's still 280 that are waiting. So that's a lot of ships just hanging out in like the lobby, I guess you would call it.
Pretty much the staging area. Yeah. Thank you, Eris.
In case you hadn't heard of it.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much for that update. Yeah, there is a I've seen that. And literally ships that are inbound and outbound. And let's be honest. Yeah, exactly, Obi. Let's be honest. The situation, I said this before, Iran's playing the long game here because they control this. They're currently the ones that are, having influence here. And they said, listen, we'll cut you a deal. If you are a U.S. flagged or an Israeli flagged ship, you're not going through. Any other country, though, if you want to go through, that's fine, as long as you transact using Chinese yuan as opposed to the U.S. dollar. Gas prices are now at $3.85 a gallon. They're going to go above $4 within a couple of days. It's been going up around 5 cents a day, every day. And here we sit, short-term pain, long-term gain, right? Nothing to see here. Well, when you have the Commerce Secretary and when you have people like, what's his name, Kevin Hassett, talking about consumers and the impact, I just want people to know that this is what they think of you. So he's being asked questions about energy markets and concerns. Here you go.
Is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
I'm sorry, consumers are the last of your concern, my guy? Okay. Here it is again.
But the fact is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
Hey, Trump supporters, do you care your gas prices are going up? Nuh-uh. Wait a minute. You guys complained for 4 years about paying so much for gas. Do you care? Nuh-uh. You don't care? Nuh-uh. So you think Trump's doing the right thing by lying to you about taking us into another war? You're cool with that, right?
Yes.
You're fine with gas prices going up?
Yes.
So you believe in the theory of short-term pain, long-term gain?
Yes.
Do you know what the long-term gain is? Nuh-uh. But you're hoping for it, right?
Yes.
So are you a consumer?
Yes.
Do you give a fuck about the condition of our economy? Nuh-uh. I'm confused then. Do you care that we're losing jobs? Nuh-uh. Trump's in the Epstein files. Nuh-uh. But he is. Nuh-uh. Is everybody else in the Epstein files guilty but Trump?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So it's really important that we all understand that Kevin Hassett, who's pulling the levers, who's connected to Project 2025, doesn't care about consumers. Doesn't care. Doesn't give a shit. 92,000 jobs lost in January. The GDP correction, 0.7% growth. It's a fucking disaster. A disaster, like an absolute disaster. I think I've got a little bit of sound on that. Hang on one second. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Hang on a second. Yeah, it's fine. Point is, gas is at $3.84, and it's not going to stop. And the experts say, the experts are not your friend fucking Frankie who lives around the corner, right, on Whipscock Lane, when he tells you gas prices are going to be down in no time, you just watch. They're not going to come down. They're likely going to be up, significantly up, well into 2027, so past Election Day. So as I mentioned to you, $3.87, okay? 84 cents. Let's just real quick, I just want to check the EIA. So, because we know the EIA tracks this, and we did this comparison yesterday. So gas is at $3.84 per gallon on average, according to AAA. Gas Buddy has it around the same number. We have not had gas that high since, let me see here. The last time gas was above $3.80 a gallon was in October of 2022. We were just starting to come out of COVID. Yeah. So when Joe Biden took office in 2021, January of 2021, gas prices were $2.42 a gallon. Donald Trump has now been in office for a year. So that means that gas is $1.60 more per $1.40 more per gallon today than when Joe Biden took office. Yep, and that's Trump's OPEC deal. So again, I just want to make sure you guys don't care that you're paying more in gas right now. Nuh-uh. Will you ever care? Nuh-uh. But what about Biden, right?
Yes.
Got it. Just wanted to make sure I had that correct. And it's good to know that members of our cabinet just don't give a fuck about consumers. All right. That's fine. Well, let's talk about this then a little bit, because I want to talk about the obvious But eggs are cheaper, right? The obvious corruption connected to this administration. So I spent a little bit of time talking about Russia today because that's relevant. Because of the fact that this is all about favoritism to Russia. This entire thing, in my opinion, I've been talking to you guys about this for a very, very long time, about Russian propaganda and NATO, et cetera. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but I just wanted to kind of go through something with you. This is the Trump family wealth, all right? So they've been tracking, Forbes has been doing a great job. They've been tracking this. This goes back to the first administration. So the estimates are that Trump personally has enriched himself close to $2 billion. The Trump family close to $5.5 billion since the inauguration day of 2025. Media and tech. Trump holds a large stake in Trump's media and technology group. At peak valuations, his stake was worth roughly $2.4 billion. Stock has been extremely volatile. Much of his wealth is unrealized, not cash. Licensing and brand deals, real estate licensing abroad, Middle East projects especially, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, merchandise and branding. He also, by the way, he also used tariffs to enrich himself. Case in point, Vietnam was going to levy a, I think it was like a 25 or 30 or even 40% tariff on Vietnam. They negotiated, reduced the tariff rate, and then within days, lo and behold, they fast-tracked development opportunity for some new Trump properties. That's fine, though. That's nothing to see here. You guys are totally good with that, right?
Yes.
Cool. So you don't really care about corruption, do you?
Nuh-uh.
Got it. All right. Political fundraising ecosystem. Through its entities tied to Trump, PACs and affiliated groups have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of that money flows to Trump-owned businesses, events and properties, family-run consulting structures. This isn't personal income in a simple sense, but can indirectly benefit the family business. So political organized events, when you bring people in, yes, that money can't go directly to the candidate or to the person running or to the individual, but when it goes to his properties, then yes. Jared Kushner, of course, we know $2 billion, real estate and golf properties. This is the big one, though. Has he divested? Because that's what the deal is, right? That you were supposed to divest. And I know that his followers, his fans, his taint sniffers are totally thinking that he did. Well, he divested. First of all, do you know what the word divested means?
Nuh-uh.
I didn't think so. Okay. He did not divest. He kept ownership of his business empire. And we know that because he told us so. Here you go. This is from yesterday.
Irish Open at a property that happens to be owned by yours truly, but I have nothing to do with it. I own it, but I don't even like to talk to my son. He says, Dad, we're doing great with the I'm allowed to run it.
No, you're not.
I don't choose to.
No, you're not.
Dad, we're doing great. Eric calls up. He's doing a good job. Do you like Eric?
Uh-huh.
I think so, right? Who doesn't like Eric? But he calls up, Dad, we're doing a great job in Ireland. What's going on? Well, we're doing this and that. I said, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it.
So I can run it. I'm allowed to. Nope. You're not, actually, because of conflict of interest. He transferred the day-to-day control of his children, Don Jr., Eric in particular. His assets were placed in a trust managed by his family. It's supposed to go in a blind trust. It's the same exact model he used in his first administration. Trump supporters, listen to me. Okay, sit down. I'll stroke your hair. The President of the United States is using the power of his office to enrich himself. He has not divested. What about Biden? We'll talk about that in just a second. We got to talk about Biden. We will. Don't worry. We'll get there. He has enriched himself billions of dollars. And by the way, many of the people in his orbit are invested heavily in the military-industrial complex. By the way, taking advantage of this current little war that we're having in the Middle East. So they're enriching themselves too. But that's another conversation. So we can talk about fraud. Yeah, what about Biden's fraud? We'll talk about that. Here we sit. President of the United States literally enriching himself, putting money in his pocket on the back of American taxpayers, and y'all don't give a shit. Instead, you'll say, Trump donated his salary. Nobody gives a fuck. His salary is like $400,000 a year. We're talking billions with a B. And listen, MAGA, you're not going to be a billionaire. I don't know. I want to be a billionaire so fucking bad. See what I did there? But it's not going to happen. Okay, you're not gonna happen. It's not going to happen. Okay, so maybe, just maybe, you could start to ask the question: why has the president and his family enriched themselves to the tune of $5 billion? And your argument is going to be, well, he's a businessman. We understand that. Thank you, Donna. We understand that, but he's violating every ethical standard imaginable. He did not divest of his businesses. He did not put assets in an independent trust, and he remains the ultimate financial beneficiary. He once again failed to divest upon taking office in 2025. His businesses continue to operate and generate revenue while he is the president. This is what the Trump Organization has said. No direct involvement in daily operations, even though the president basically just said, I can run it. I certainly can. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Limits thereon deals with foreign governments, but not private foreign companies. So that's their defense. Well, listen, we're not negotiating with the governments. We're only negotiating with foreign companies, although they may be funneled by the federal government, with the exception of Vietnam, because the Vietnamese government fast-tracked permits so the Trump family could build a property there. So that's even a statement that they can't stand on. And then they pledged to donate some foreign government-related profits to the U.S. Treasury. None of that's happened. As far as we know, none of it's happened. But importantly, the business can still do deals globally. Trump still owns and benefits financially. Jimmy Carter, okay, again, underrated president, was so concerned about improprieties that he sold his fucking peanut farm. Okay? Sold it. There were gifts given to presidents, and they were so concerned about how it would look that they said, I can't accept that. And here you guys are, right? Some of you live in some of the poorest states in America. Some of you live in districts that have the highest rates of poverty, highest rates of government subsidies, and you're celebrating billionaires. Again, what was the stat I shared with you guys? There's like 900 billionaires in our country, and combined they have $8.2 trillion worth of wealth. Trillion with a T. And y'all are fine with the president enriching himself to the tune of $5.5 billion. You guys, you can't defend it. Stop. You don't need to debase yourself with this bullshit. You just don't need to do it. Call it out. Just fucking call it out. Call it out. All right. I might be moving a little bit slowly today because I freaking slipped on the ice with the dog yesterday and wrenched my back. Slept like shit. So if I'm fidgety today, that's why. All right. If there's anything else I want to summarize with this. I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, yeah. Let me do this. So let me do this. So Trump has claimed that he has divested. He has not. He still owns the businesses. The control was handed to family members, and his assets are run in a family trust, not a blind trust. That he can't profit while president. That's myth number 2. He can directly profit because he owns the businesses, gets revenue from hotels, golf clubs, licensing deals, etc. Because he's not divested, and because it's in a family trust and not a blind trust. Boom. Myth number 3, all of his wealth gains are cash in hand. A large portion is paper wealth. His stake in Trump Media and Technology Group fluctuates with the stock market. Valuations can swing billions without being realized. Net worth does not necessarily equal cash in this case. Foreign money is completely blocked. No. Foreign investments happen all the time. In fact, that's the issue that we have with crypto in this case, because we don't know who the investors are. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where the influence is coming from. We can point to some. We know UAE and Qatar and the like. We know that China got access to some NVIDIA chips. So again, this is pay for play. Campaign money goes to Trump personally. Campaign funds do not go directly to his pocket. But these events and these PACs, when they meet, they stay at Trump hotels and they use Trump venues. So it's all related to this big fucking grift. So again, MAGA, please, right? We're just asking you, just take a look at some of this shit. You can, if all you want to do is focus on Trump's salary, that's fine. Find the paper trail where he's donated his salary, because it's against the law. He can't refuse his salary. That's not how it works. He can't just say, don't pay me. He has to accept it. Where does the money go? If your claim is that he's supporting charities, then find one for me. After you do that, then tell me. So $400,000 roughly times what, 4 years is like $1.6 million. He has enriched himself to the tune of $2 billion personally since he took office, and his family closer to $5 billion. So stop, please. All right. It's just so fucking blatantly obvious to me. I don't know why you wouldn't. It doesn't matter. I know why you wouldn't. All right, I do want to talk a little bit more about we're going to talk about Russia today, because as I've been telling you guys from the very beginning, this entire thing to me is Russia having massive leverage over the president. So here's an example. And we'll talk about why in just a second.
When they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But
hang on a second, guys. I just got to go say goodbye to my daughter. I'll be right back.
But we're not going to help. I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat. You know, we're helping them. So we helped them and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
Mr. President.
Sorry, I'm moving slow. I'm moving a little slow, and there's a little chaos in my house this morning, so my apologies. Okay, so that's Trump on Ukraine and some references to NATO. Well, I want to play this for you as well. So hang tight. And there's a point here. Sorry, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm a little distracted. Hang in there. All right, here we go. This is Trump talking to the same press gaggle about Congress and NATO.
Thinking of the United States' relationship with
that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision. As you probably know, I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people. And I'd always deal with Congress anyway, but I don't need Congress for that decision. But, you know, when you say rethink, I have nothing currently in mind, but I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine. Look, Ukraine would have been over in one day if we didn't help. Frankly, Ukraine would have been over the first day. They had the best equipment in the world. It was our equipment.
Okay. Sure. No problem. That's sure. Okay. I see my friend Airwolf. We're going to unpack this in just a second, but I saw your question. Hey, brother, how are you?
How you doing? Great show today, Steve. I'm hoping you feel better.
Thank you, man.
Whatever you do,
Thanks.
remember that RFK says Tylenol is bad for you, so don't take any Tylenol whatsoever.
Good point. I mean, actually, you know what? I'm gonna actually reach out to RFK and ask him how I should take care of my back. Good call. I'm sure he'd give me great advice.
It might include monoclonal antibodies.
It sure could. It might include it could include a moose head. Who the fuck knows? Or whale semen. Whatever. Raw milk. I'm down. Hey, listen, I'll try anything once.
Oh, hey now. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Meanwhile, as all this chaos is going on, as all our troops are in danger, and Donald Trump is profiting, Jared Kushner is negotiating and starting wars. We now have a new president of the United States. I don't know if you caught this. Donald Trump has advocated his throne to the wonderful Gavin Newsom, and I want to say thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump, for putting
President Newsom.
Yes,
President Newsom. Oh, Newscum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, correct.
And before I know I'm making jokes up here, but Donald Trump, I have autism and I have dyslexia. Screw you. Absolutely screw you. I can't stand people who I've been bullied all my life. And now I have the gosh darn friggin' president bullying me because he thinks he's better. You know how many times I had to go through school, people saying, you know what, you're just different. Or you go to a special class, or you have to get extra help. Now the president of the United States is making fun of people like me. You know what I did? I took that and I used that as motivation. I went and joined the mighty United States Air Force and became a great security forces member, which is something that he could never do. So screw you, Donald Trump. All right. I didn't mean to get serious like that, but screw you. Screw everything is about you. I'm tired of being bullied by people like him. And I wonder, Steve, can you tell me, has he ever released a college transcript?
No, we've had some. It's a good point. We've had some of his professors go on the record or off the record saying he's like the dumbest person they've ever had in his class. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, he's never released.
There was reporting. Yeah, there was reporting that people were paid to take his tests, et cetera.
Yeah. Did he ever release a high school transcript?
Not that I know of.
Huh. And yet he goes around, he insults Biden saying he's, smart, and then he insults AOC. Last time, I remember, AOC did graduate cum laude from her college. That's pretty hardcore to do. Last time I remember, you had to go to 2 different colleges because from what I report on, your own professor, and I quote, this is quoting, said that he was dumber than a box of rocks.
Correct. There you go. That was the quote I was looking for.
But there's one thing I want you to look at. Steve, if you wouldn't mind on your show, could you highlight the fact that during all this chaos here in the state of Florida, the great state of the free state of Florida, we just passed an election suppression act that it's going to be law. So now in Florida, you are going to do exactly what Donald Trump says, because if you don't, Governor DeSantis, or DeSanctimonious, whatever you want to call him, is going to send the mighty Florida National Guard after you or something. But in all this crazy, I have to let you know this. There was a bill not passed. It failed in Florida. It's going to make you chuckle. It failed in Florida. So legally, and this is my patriotic right, I'm going to let you know this, we can still marry our cousins down here in Florida.
That's good to know. I feel so much better now. I am so glad. Let me ask our audience members. So MAGA, are you guys really happy that you can now marry your cousins in Florida?
Yes.
Really? So you don't care about how weird that looks?
Nuh-uh.
Okay, good to know. I just wanted to make sure. I had to poll the audience. I want to make sure everybody's. Wow, it's like, Mom, if you would. No, I won't even go there. I was going to tell a joke, but I won't. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Why is it always Florida? Francis, I'm sorry. You know how much I love you, you sexy bitch. But why is it always Florida? Why? Why is it always Florida?
We find things to do here in Florida. Not only can you not even mention that you might be part of the community, because if you do that, you can be removed from your position either as a mayor or anywhere, because DeSantis has ultimate power now if you even mention anything about DEI or anything like that. But thank gosh, we have great patriots like Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature. We had a bill. Let me explain that to you, ladies. We had a bill put up there to stop the practice of marrying your cousins. And I kid you not, it failed.
I'm sorry. There was an actual bill that said the Stop Your Marrying Your Cousins Act or
I do
something to
not
that
give
effect?
disinformation. I try to be as accurate as possible. There is a bill that went to our great Florida legislature and said we need to stop people from marrying your cousins. And it failed.
So, okay. So one of our amazing moderators, one of my dear friends, Francis, was in the chat. Can we please put a hashtag get Francis out of Florida? We need to get that trending because that's not good at all. Get Sam out of Missouri and get Francis out of Florida, please, as soon as possible.
All right, Steve, I'll let you go. I just thought I'd make your day.
Anyway,
take your mind off your pain a little bit there.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot for being here, and thank you for your service, friend. Be well. Be safe out there. Whew, man. Damn. Okay. Why is it always Florida? Why? See, it's interesting because, like, imagine being, I don't know. Imagine you've just learned English, and you live in a far remote land. Story time with facts. And you live in a far remote land, and you've never watched TV before, okay? And you're plopped down in front of a TV, and then they run a couple of episodes of Cops, and every other episode of Cops featured Florida Man. So somebody's first impression, to all my blue dots, I love you. Everybody's first impression of the U.S. would be Florida. Yikes. Okay. Anywho, it's not a good look. Bad boys, what you want to do? Hello, Cameron. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So I got a question going back to your previous little segment there with divesting and stuff like that. Say a new administration comes in. Can they do anything to seize his assets and redistribute them to the American citizens that were taken illegally?
Well, I mean, divesting, there's really no, I looked into it, there's really no laws regarding divesting. It's been one of those things that we just wanted people to do. So the answer is probably no.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously unethical, and that's the entire point. Is that if there's any good thing that comes from what we've seen, we know that there are cracks in our system, and that it takes, you need people of character, people of integrity, people who are honest to function within it. And we just know that this person is just not honest. So sadly.
Okay, no worries. Like I said, I just thought about that. I thought I'd bring it up and ask.
I appreciate that. Thank you for being here, Cameron. I appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Bye-bye.
I appreciate you. I mean, sure. Nothing we can do. Obi brings up a good point. You could ask Congress to pass a law. Sure. I would include that in ethics guidelines, for the Supreme Court, because they have their own. It's weird because the Supreme Court has their own ethics rules, but they're supposed to sort of, report on themselves, et cetera, et cetera. You guys know me. I'm always going to try to find the silver lining. Like I'm a glass half full person, which drives people nuts, but that's how I live my life, right? So glass half full to me says, listen, we've seen a lot of the cracks in our system. So the good news is we've seen a lot of those cracks. The bad news is if we continue to have bad actors, then those cracks are just going to get wider and wider and wider and wider. So we touched on NATO a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history because this entire thing, well, let me back up a second. I firmly believe that a lot of the foreign policy decisions that the president is making, we'll call them foreign policy decisions, I firmly believe that it is to the benefit of one person and one person only, and that would be Vladimir Putin. Because the desire of the Soviet president, the Russian president, I call him the Soviet president because that's what he wants. He wants a return to the Soviet Union. And now we can talk about the PB tape, we can talk about financial leverage, whatever it might be. There is no doubt in my mind, is my opinion and my opinion alone, there's no doubt in my mind that the president is leveraged. Okay? We know the story of Russian oligarchs investing in Trump area properties. and never taking up residence. We know about, intel. We know about that famous press conference in Helsinki, Finland, where the president said, I trust Vlad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we know all that. And NATO being one of the principal components of this. NATO being, in fact, the biggest, because who benefits without NATO? That would be Russia, primarily. So I'm just going to kind of go back a little bit and just remind you guys of some of the things that our president has said about NATO. This goes back a long time. In 1987, Trump bought a full-page newspaper ad arguing that the U.S. was being ripped off by allies like Japan and countries in the Persian Gulf and NATO countries, calling for those benefiting from U.S. protections to pay more. Same kind of rhetoric we hear today. That timing, 1987, the mid-80s, the early 80s to the mid-80s, is when the relationship, or the alleged relationship between bad actors, at that particular time, it was the KGB, how they sort of developed and fostered this relationship with the president. Because at that time, they identified a target, and they talk about people, if you were to pick the perfect person to be someone that the KGB could manipulate, they're looking for narcissists, egomaniacs, and people who are not necessarily the brightest bulbs on the tree. Easily manipulated, right? Again, my opinion, but I've read a lot about this. I've studied it a lot, right? So you can easily track. And then if you think about what is the primary desire of Vladimir Putin? And that is the end of NATO. He wants the West to be weakened. That's why they use disinformation campaigns. That's why they muddle in elections. That's why they'll tell Trump anything that he wants. Don't forget, it was Vladimir Putin who put the idea about mail-in ballots being bad in Trump's brain. A Russian president who wants the end of Western democracy, telling the American president, you can't let your voters vote through mail because it's all corrupt. Blah, fucking blah. Anyway, in 2000, in The America We Deserve, Trump argued that Europe's conflicts were not worth American lives and wrote that, quote, pulling back from Europe and NATO would save this country millions of dollars annually. That showed a deeper skepticism than just burden sharing. It suggested the U.S. commitment to Europe itself was questionable. Okay. During the 2015-2016 presidential campaign, Trump moved the issue into mainstream presidential politics. He repeatedly said, quote, NATO members were not paying their fair share. And he called NATO obsolete and openly suggested U.S. protection should depend on whether allies had paid. In July 2016, he said, when asked about defending allies under treaty obligations, I don't know. Have they paid? Early 2017, after winning, Trump softened slightly, but did not abandon the criticism. In January of 2017, he still said that NATO was, quote, obsolete because it was not adequately focused on terrorism, while also saying it remained very important. This was classic Trump on NATO criticism mixed with partial reaffirmation. That's just reported by Reuters. In May of 2017 at the Brussels summit, Trump publicly scolded allies, saying many owed, quote, massive amounts of money to the U.S. and NATO. The wording was misleading as a factual matter. NATO's benchmark is a defense spending guideline, not a bill countries owe Washington. But it fits his long-running framing of the alliance as a bad financial deal for America. NATO says the 2% figure is a defense spending guideline tied to allied commitments, not debt owed to another member. I've asked this question of Trump supporters in previous lives. So how does NATO work? And people think that other countries pay the U.S. So when I talk about funding education, that's one reason why in July 2017 and later on that year, Trump became more explicit in backing collective defenses and has said that U.S. stands firmly behind Article 5 after criticism that he had not clearly endorsed it in Brussels. So this was one of the few periods where he balanced burden-sharing criticisms with a clear pro-alliance statement. In 2018, Trump escalated again, attacking Germany as, quote, a captive of Russia over energy dependence and pushing allies not just towards 2% GDP, but floating the idea of 4%. This period shows that his NATO criticism had expanded from pay more into broader accusations that key allies were strategically weak or compromised, etc., etc., etc. Enter the Board of Peace. What's the Board of Peace supposed to do? The Board of Peace, from my perspective, not only is it a massive fucking grift, where again the president becomes richer and richer and richer and richer, but it's also the baby steps into fracturing the NATO alliance, in my opinion. And that brings me to this, to Timothy Snyder. And I've played this before. It's been a while. I want to revisit again. He is the preeminent expert on Russian propaganda, because the things that you hear from Trump regarding NATO is fucking textbook KGB Russian propaganda. Okay? So I'm going to play this sound for you, then we're going to talk about it a little bit more. This was an appearance he made on MSNBC a couple years ago.
Called for months by what Liz Cheney calls the Putin wing of the Republican Party. Our next guest, Yale history professor Timothy Snyder, testified about that on Wednesday in the House Oversight Committee.
If we follow Chinese propaganda about the ongoing Ukraine war, we notice a certain pattern.
Remember, this started because I played the sound about him criticizing President Zelensky again. So we've given them $400 billion. First of all, it's nowhere fucking close to that. Not even close to that. Not even, it's like 10% of that at the most.
Which is that the political warfare themes, which, as colleagues have quite rightly said, are meant to pass through us, have in fact done so. First, Ukrainians are Nazis. A Russian theme picked up by China, echoed on the House floor. Second, it's all about NATO enlargement. A Russian theme picked up by China. Third, Ukraine is corrupt. A Russian theme picked up by China, echoed on the House floor, echoed in the Senate by Senator Vance. Fourth, that democracies can't do anything about Ukraine, that it's all pointless. A Russian theme echoed by Chinese propaganda, picked up in House discussions. Fifth, we should pay attention to the border and not do anything about Ukraine. A Russian theme picked up by China, echoed in both chambers. Sixth, the Biden bribe. A Russian theme picked up and echoed by China, discussed in this very chamber.
Committee member Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of the so-called Putin wing of the Republican Party, said this.
It's amazing to me that just in a few years' time, it's now considered misinformation to talk about the Nazis in Ukraine.
I'd like to thank the representative from Georgia by making clear with her comments and with her person that any discussion of political warfare has to include Russia, Ukraine, and America. She's just demonstrated that point, I think, very powerfully. On the question of Nazis, I've written 2 books as a historian about Nazis and the Holocaust. On the question of Ukrainian nationalism, I am the leading scholar of that subject in North America and have been writing about it for 20 years. If the chamber is interested in the degree of far-right participation in Ukrainian politics, you can be assured that no far-right party has ever crossed 3% in Ukrainian election. So of course there are bad people in every country, but by any comparative standard is a very small phenomenon. In Russia, on the other hand, the army includes openly Nazi formations such as Rushich. The government itself is fascist in character, and it is carrying out a war which includes deportation of children by the tens of thousands, the open intention of destroying a state, as well as mass torture. So if we're looking for fascism, and if there is anyone who is sincerely concerned about halting fascism or racism, you would wish to halt Russia.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has been threatening to vote to remove House Speaker Mike Johnson because of his support for aid to Ukraine. Speaker Johnson said this about Marjorie Taylor Greene's threat to remove him from the speakership.
So again, this is a couple years ago, but it's relevant now because based on everything that we're seeing, right? When you pull on these threads and you start to connect the dots, makes sense to me, makes sense to the smartest chat on TikTok, may not make sense to a lot of other people, which is why we're doing it though.
If I operated out of fear over a motion to vacate, I would never be able to do my job. Look, history judges us for what we do. This is a critical time right now, critical time on the world stage. I think providing lethal aid to Ukraine right now is critically important. I really do. I really do believe the intel and the briefings that we've gotten that I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe.
Joining us now, Timothy Snyder, professor of history at Yale University. He is the author of The Road to Unfreedom, Russia, Europe, America. Professor Snyder, thank you very much for being here. What does it say that believing U.S. intelligence about Putin and Russia puts the Republican speaker's job at risk?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it says that an important part of the Republican Party has gotten in the habit of repeating things that are propaganda tropes. Some of them are doing it because they have reasons of their own. Some of them, I think, are a little bit trapped. But I emphasize that it's not really a matter of American intelligence. It's more just a matter of objective reality. What the speaker said is true. The war is at a critical state. The front could break. Ukrainians are fighting intelligently and courageously, but we have not passed.
And think about it, this is 2 years ago, right? This is 2 years ago. And not only has the Ukrainian military defended their territory, they've advanced. They've taken territory back, primarily because sanctions against Russian oil have made it extremely difficult for the Russian military to restock and resupply. Now, let's see. What would be an advantage to the Russian military? Oh, I don't know, probably money from oil. Well, who released the sanctions? Who just basically forgave the sanctions on Russia? That would be the United States. You see how this is fucking connected? Who are we doing favors for? We get rhetoric, anti-NATO rhetoric. We get anti-Western rhetoric from our president. We accept Russian propaganda on the floor of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate and members of his cabinet. We know about their financial connections. We know about Tulsi's connections. We know that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on one of their trips to Moscow in negotiating the peace deal between Russia and Ukraine said specifically that we're going to open up territory in eastern Ukraine for Western development. The borders that Russia took, moving the line from east to west, that territory that they took, they can keep it. Also, opening up investment and development territory in eastern Russia. Who the fuck does that benefit? It benefits the corporate oligarchs, and it benefits fucking Russia. Let's be real. It's always been Russia, Russia, Russia. It's always been that way. They are behind all of this. Russia and Bibi Netanyahu, in my opinion, and others, but those two primarily. It's not much of a stretch. You guys know me. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but let's be real. Let's be real. Let's talk about what we know. Where does the enrichment come from? The enrichment comes from our president and his cabinet and other members of his circle, right? Enriching themselves on the back of the American taxpayer. No doubt about it. There's no denying that. We know that. Those companies that take advantage of those tax breaks are people that are funding campaigns, etc. The Trump family enriching themselves, maybe not directly, but indirectly, by staying at Russian properties, by staying at Trump properties, etc., etc., etc. That infamous Helsinki summit when the president said, "I don't know why I wouldn't believe Putin." Of course I would. Of course I would believe Putin. And then here we are with Russian propaganda. Okay. Here's some more of it.
Passed a law to support them for something like 480 days at this point. So it's not even a matter of intelligence, just a matter of taking reality into account.
Taking reality into account. Yeah. I want to just play this again in real time because I think it's necessary. Hang on one second.
It was one of the most extraordinary moments between an American.
This is 2018. I've played this for you guys before, and I don't mean to be redundant. I know you've heard it. But again, it's timely because of everything that's happening. Listen to what our president says when confronted by a journalist asking questions about Russian interference.
President and a Russian leader. Their meeting framed by Friday's Justice Department indictment of 12 Russian agents for election meddling and the judgment of U.S. intelligence agencies, including Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats, that Russia interfered. President Trump asked, who do you believe, President Putin or the U.S. intelligence community? His answer?
People came to me, Dan Coats came to me and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia.
President Putin, who has done nothing but repeat the facts that he believes the biggest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century was the fall, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russian propaganda about NATO expansion, Russian propaganda about the West being the aggressor. Russia has interfered in our elections going back decades. We know that's true. The American president, who obviously has some connections to Moscow hotel properties, the rumor and innuendo about the PP tape, other things, financial ties to Russian oligarchs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The American president asked in front of the world, standing next to Vladimir Putin, if Russia interfered in an American election, and this is what his answer was.
And some others, they said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
And the president complimenting an offer from Putin. Instead of turning over the indicted Russian agents, Russian officials would question the agents themselves, with special counsel Bob Mueller present.
I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
Tonight, the president's own intelligence.
Can you imagine sitting there in front of the fucking world thanking Russia? Yeah, it did hurt. You're right. Can you imagine that? Literally sitting there in front of the world saying, oh yeah, I mean, sure. You want to help us spy on people? We'll take you up on that. Mama, you're right. Hashtag Epstein. It's all related to me, guys. It's all related. When we go down, try to connect the dots. That's one of the things we talk about in our little community here. Like I try to connect the dots for you guys. So these dots connect. If you think about the layers, you think about Ukrainian girls being trafficked, you think about Russian girls being trafficked in Epstein's network, right? We know about Russian oligarch money. We know, there's been enough reporting to think that there's a smoking gun out there. Whether it's the PP tape, whether it's something else, whether it's worse, there's no denying the financial connections. There's no denying that. Eric Trump's gone on the record saying we get all the money that we need from Russia. U.S. banks cut him off. Russian-backed banks suddenly find money for him. It's all fucking connected. It's all connected, and it's always been Russia and Israel, in my opinion, the Israeli government, just to be very clear. It's always been that. It's always been that. Here's more of this. Here's more of this infamous press conference.
Chief Dan Coats shot back with a rare rebuke. We have been clear in our assessment of Russian meddling in the 2016 election, and we will continue to provide unvarnished and objective intelligence in support of our national security. Critics like former Obama CIA Director John Brennan unleashing.
It's something that is a disgrace, and that all Americans should be ashamed of that performance of somebody who holds the title of President of the United States.
Election meddling among the flashpoints that have helped sink U.S.-Russia relations. Others include Russia's illegal occupation of Crimea and its backing of a Syrian regime that used chemical weapons. But this morning, President Trump blaming tensions on the U.S. and the Mueller investigation. Tweeting, our relationship with Russia has never been worse thanks to many years of U.S. foolishness and stupidity. And now, the rigged witch hunt.
Just to be clear, the United States president on Twitter blamed the relationship we had with Russia on the United States. Donald, this is what I want you to do. Yes, Vlad. You're going to put out a tweet. You're going to blame fractures in Russian-U.S. relationships on your country. Oh, that's not going to go over very well. Doesn't matter. Remember, I have tape. Remember, locked in safe, pictures of you in very bad positions. Okay. And then sure enough,
today asked, does he think Putin bears any responsibility?
Yes, I do. I hold both countries responsible. I think that the United States has been foolish. I think that the probe is a disaster for our country. I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all. Everybody.
Yeah, there fucking was, dude. Yeah, there was.
He knows it. People are being brought out to the fore. So far that I know, virtually none of it related to the campaign. And they're going to have to try really hard to find somebody that did relate to the campaign. That was a clean campaign. I beat Hillary Clinton easily. And frankly, we beat her.
Putin revealing for the first time who he wanted to win.
President Putin, did you want President Trump to win the election?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the Russian relationship back to normal, Putin said.
Was there anything behind it, or was he just being honest at that moment?
I think he was being honest, and I think he wants to cooperate with Trump. I think Trump is somebody that he thinks will do a lot of good for Russia. Whether this
intelligence operatives about making their statements, right? About how, yeah, I mean, you heard the deference. You literally heard the deference paid by journalists, by the president himself to Russia.
Relationship will do a lot of good for America is a different question.
Those 4 hours inside Helsinki's presidential palace, a sharp 180 from President Trump's tense showdown last week with many NATO allies.
I think we will end up having an extraordinary relationship. I hope so. I've been saying, and I'm sure you've heard over the years, and as I campaigned, that getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing.
But Putin tonight dismissing suspicions that Russia has compromising information on the president.
Does the Russian government have any compromising material on President Trump or his family?
I did hear this rumor, he said. It is hard to imagine nonsense on a bigger scale than this.
And I have to say, if they had it, it would have been out long ago.
We only have their accounts of what happened because President Trump and Putin spoke for more than 2 hours behind closed doors with just translators in the room. President Trump says there is a possibility of future meetings, and he's hopeful for progress on nuclear proliferation, among other issues.
So, just to summarize, right? I've been saying this for years. It's nothing new to me. The Russian intelligence agencies, whether it be the KGB or the MSB, they've always wanted to destabilize the United States. And it took them years. They played the long game, connected with GOP operatives, connected with, don't forget about RT. Don't forget about RT Media. I'll segue right into that right now, as a matter of fact. How they use Russian propaganda. NATO is the aggressor, not Russia. How it's framed. NATO encircled Russia. Eastern European countries were forced or manipulated into joining. Russia is acting defensively. Think about what you hear people on this app defending the invasion. Well, it's because NATO encircled Russia. No, they didn't. It's because Eastern European countries were forced or manipulated into joining. No, they weren't. Well, it's because Russia is acting defensively. No, they aren't. Countries like Poland, the Baltics, etc., asked to join NATO voluntarily, often because of historical fear of Russia. NATO is a defensive alliance. Article 5 triggers only after an attack. NATO promised not to expand is more, again, Russian propaganda. It came from a 1990 conversation about East Germany only, not all of Eastern Europe. What's actually true? No formal treaty or binding agreement ever banned NATO expansion. Even many Western officials involved at the time say this has been misinterpreted over and over and over again. In fact, even Russia agreed in the agreement about NATO. I think one of the only restrictions is you cannot be at war, which is why Ukraine is not in NATO currently. So one of the most widely repeated disinformation claims globally. Who, again, does it benefit? It benefits Russia. By using this disinformation, this propaganda super fucking highway, it creates sentiment for Russia. The same people that were in the front row of fucking, Wolverines. What's the name of the movie? You guys know. Red Dawn. The people that were cheering on in their members only jackets back in the 80s watching Top Gun, cheering on the United States military or the US Olympic hockey team, or watching Miracle, or whatever movie from the 80s, Rocky and Drago, doesn't matter. All those people were so against Russia. And because of Russian propaganda, and because of Trump aligning, and because of Trump using the power of his microphone, and because of the fucking cult, all of a sudden, tens of millions of Americans believe that Russia is the victim? Are you fucking kidding me? This literally is Putin's wet dream. I've got the American president sitting in the Oval Office, special phone. I call whenever I want. Donald, more misinformation coming your way. Okay, Vlad. Remember, I have goods in safe. Got bad pictures of you. Melania sent me a video last night. Very spicy. I'm just saying, this is what's been happening for decades. And all it took was a malignant narcissist who just needs his ego stroked for Vladimir Putin literally to redraw the map. And that includes dismantling of NATO. NATO is a puppet of the United States. Again, more misinformation and propaganda. It messaged, this is how they angled it. This is from Reuters. This entire thing is from Reuters. That Europe has no sovereignty, that NATO wants war, and that the U.S. uses NATO to dominate global politics. NATO expansion is colonialism and imperialism. The claim is that NATO is an empire expanding eastward. Russia portrays itself as anti-imperialist. NATO equals a modern empire, and then Russia resisting Western domination. We can't, we are the victims here. This framing is used while Russia exerts influence over neighbors like Ukraine, Georgia, the Baltics, etc. How then does it get propagated? Russian state media, RT. Official speeches from Vladimir Putin, fringe websites, conspiracy influencers, partisan voices left and right, bots, coordinated accounts, memification of complex issues, and then emotional hooks like fear, anger, and nationalism. Don't forget, there was that I think it's Tim Pool and others, Benny Johnson. We're getting money from RT. We're getting money to spread Russian propaganda. And they're doing it. And it worked. It worked like a fucking charm. And here we sit. Here we sit. Like, it's beyond disturbing to me to talk about it like this, but it's so fucking necessary because, again, the new world order that the right's been so afraid of is being handed to Russia and other autocrats with the keys to the fucking car, or I should say the keys to the golden toilet, by our president. Hang on a second. I got to deal with something. Oh, I'm going to play this for you guys. I'm sorry, guys. Got a lot going on today. Here.
Facts still matter, so stand up, lean in. You don't need a cape just to help someone win. Do something simple, do something true. Make a sandwich for a friend, hold the door for someone too. Facts still matter, it starts with you. Check on your neighbor, share what you can do. One small action turns into a wave. Do something today, be the change that you crave. Facts still matter, it starts with you. Facts still matter, it starts with you.
I don't complain about much, man, but back injuries, they are the fucking worst. Anyway, so again, state media, Russia, Sputnik, official speeches from Vladimir, fringe websites, conspiracy influencers, partisan voices, bots, coordinated accounts, memification of complex issues, emotional hooks, fear, anger, nationalism. It's the same fucking script. They've been using it forever. Why it's so dangerous, and again, we've gone through the propaganda exercise, because any propaganda, any conspiracy theory, propaganda is not always bad. Marketing and advertising is propaganda, right? Where it gets bad is when it's targeted, right? And they use it to manipulate. Yes, NATO did expand. So there's a kernel of truth to this. Yes, U.S. influence is strong. And yes, interventions are controversial. Expansion became aggression. Influence became control, and mistakes mean an evil system. Long story short, we can't stop talking about Russian influence on American politics, because to me, it's all related. It's related to the war in Iran because, again, who benefits? Who benefits from this? We know that the Russian government particularly benefits from this because of the reduction of oil sanctions. Who benefits? They do. Who benefits by the Board of Peace and by NATO being dissolved? That'd be Russia. Leverage connected to the Jeffrey files because of Russian contacts, because of deep ties to the Russian oligarchs, moving money, right? All that shit is fucking related. And it's dangerous, and we're the pawns. We are literally pawns on the chessboard with billionaires and oligarchs globally reshaping geopolitics to the benefit of themselves. All right. I think that's good on that particular topic. Is there anything else that I wanted to cover there? Myth, NATO forced countries to join. The fact, countries applied voluntarily, often due to fear of Russia. Myth, NATO promised never to expand. Fact, no formal agreement ever existed banning expansion. Myth, NATO was planning to attack Russia. Fact, NATO was structured as a defensive alliance only. Myth, NATO is just a puppet of the U.S. Fact, members have independent governments and decision-making power of their own. The idea behind it is that you create doubt. It's all it takes. And then Tim Snyder broke it down. It's all you have to do is talk about, well, are we going to do anything about the Yahtzees in Ukraine? Well, there's more. Was it the Azov? What was then the general got taken out? I forget what it is. You guys might remember that because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. That group of Russian, I don't know. I'll think of it. Yorkshire, how are you today?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yorkshire? Not want to come up? Thank you. Wagner, exactly. Thank you, Joe. Wagner, right? Infiltrated with Yahtzees. And here the Wagner group. It wasn't the general or one of the commanders who had an accident, right? Prigozhin, was that his name? Maybe I've seen too many Russian movies, Russian-themed movies. Who knows? I don't know. Prigozhin, was that his name? Maybe? I don't remember. Anyway, here's where we sit. His plane crashed. Prigozhin, thank you. His plane crashed. Got too close to the window. Didn't have a taste tester for the king, so to speak. Mark Wayne Mullen confirmation going on right now. I'm not even going to bother because he's a fucking idiot. That guy. They're going to replace Kristi Noem with that guy. Okay, good luck. All right. Let's move on here. Everybody keep tapping, please. Let me check in real quick. A couple of things. Thank you to Char, you're sweet. I really appreciate all your support. Electric Gal Char for your $50 donation on the CA for the Do Something tour. That's very kind of you. Thank you so very, very much. You're very sweet. You've been a long time friend of the show. Hearts in the chat for Char, please. Also, thank you to Gigi. Thank you very much, Gigi. I appreciate you. During Biden, the USA border was as open as the Strait of Hormuz, but MAGA is saying they are both wide open when they're not. That's funny. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Tamisha, do something. Thank you so very, very much. You're very kind. I appreciate you, and I think I got those from yesterday. So this is President Zelensky. Since we're talking about Russian propaganda and we're talking about the connections between this war that we're now in, Iran, Russia, how does Ukraine play into this? Don't forget, the United States military actually reached out to Ukraine and say, can you guys give us a little bit of help with this drone shit? Because you guys have done a great fucking job taking down Russian drones. So this is President Zelensky being asked some questions on this particular topic about Russia's involvement and how he says that Russia has been supplying Iran with drones. Great.
Any information about this report that the Russians are providing Iran with intelligence, specifically providing Iran with intelligence on where American troops are, where American assets are, so that the Iranians can strike and kill Americans?
Gave drones already. As you know, that they built and produced a lot of drones. They gave them. I have 100% facts that that Iranian regime used against American bases and against our Middle East and Middle East neighbors of Iran. They used these drones. We saw intelligence shared with us some details, and it was Russian details in these Iranian drones. This is the first. And the second point is my intelligence told me next that they think that they share information, intelligence with Iranian regime. They help them. And also my intelligence told me that they said if Europe and the United States can help Ukraine with intelligence in this war, it means that Russia can help Iranian regime. This is their point of view on this. So it's a fact, and you see that it's not a big secret.
The quote from President Zelensky, my intelligence told me that they said, if Europe and the United States can help Ukraine with intelligence in this war, it means that Russia can help the Iranian regime. So how come there's been no statements from the White House about Russian drones being used in the fight to attack American American military and American installations? Was it a Russian drone that unalived American service members? Where's the pushback? Where's the criticism? Where is the blaming? Where is the finger pointing? You see what I mean? The President of the United States is compromised, and there's no doubt in my mind. And I call balls and strikes here, guys. You know that. But how can you come to any other conclusion than that? Honestly. How is it possible to come to any other conclusion than that? When we've got the history, we've got the rhetoric, we've got the financial ties, we've got all of it. He is compromised, and there's no doubt in my mind. And sure, could we say that this entire thing is to cover up the Jeffrey files? Again, 89 days since Pam Bondi and the Trump administration have been violating the federal law by not releasing all the files, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's beyond that, because Trump's entire financial career is built on the backs of Russian money. He is compromised. To be honest, I think Trump cares more about being considered a successful businessman, to be a self-made billionaire. I think he's more concerned about his reputation as that than he does his involvement in the Epstein files. Because he doesn't give a fuck about women or children. He doesn't fucking care. He thinks they're property. I can brush them aside. But if the veneer gets burst, or whatever, poking a hole through the veneer, whatever that colloquialism is, if it comes out, we already know, proven that he's done this on the back of money laundering, Russian money, propaganda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then the entire myth is gone. And this is what we've been trying to tell MAGA. You've hooked your fucking wagon to this fucking star? Okay. What the fuck? Welcome to What the Fuck Wednesday. All right. This is Mehdi Hasan, and I like to promote gifting restricted. Don't know why. Tap like crazy. I like to give Mehdi Hasan a lot of credit because he is an exceptional journalist, and he started his own network, Zeteo. I would love to be affiliated. If anybody has any connections to Mehdi, please give them my name. He's talking about since Mark Wayne Mullen is testifying currently, here you go. This is Mehdi Hasan.
Republicans are dumb as shit. We've had Mark Wayne Mullen assume that the leader of Iran is Ayatollah Khomeini, who died in 1989.
Right.
You've had Anna Paulina Luna unable to state basic facts about what's going on. 2003, George Bush is about to invade Iraq. A bunch of Iraqi opposition go into the White House. They come out and they say, he doesn't know that Iraq is split into Shia, Sunni, and Kurd. Right? This is on the eve of war. I saw a poll that says only 1 in 4 Americans can find Iran on a map.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. And forget about the
I think it was Mark Twain, the quote is attributed to Twain, that war is the way that God created war so that Americans could learn geography. But this is the position we're in right now.
The quote from Mark Twain, yes. Americans, war was created so that Americans can learn geography. That's pretty sad. It's true, though. Okay. Let me see what else I have here. So many things I want to talk about. While we're in the midst of, rising prices and corruption and gas approaching $4 a gallon and the economy hemorrhaging jobs and losing allies and, pushing back against misinformation. Remember we talked about the, what's it called again? Let me make sure I get it right. It's called the Brandolini's Law, right? The introduction to Brandolini's Law, we broke it down last week. It's really simple. It says, the amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude larger than the energy needed to produce it. Case in point, when you tell a lie, it takes people that are willing to do the research, people willing to do the fact checking, people willing to dig past the headline to poke a hole in said lie. So when the president has been lying about everything, no more wars, no more, I'm going to lower your prices, your gas prices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all those kinds of things. None of it matters to his supporters because they will just continue to believe whatever he tells them, which just happens to be more lies. Exactly, flooding the zone. So we're going to start with a couple of things. This is where it gets really disturbing. So this is Representative Pete Sessions, right? So when we hear these announcements about how far this war is going to go, I'm bouncing around a little bit today, guys, but it's all related. It's what the fuck, right? It's all related because the common thread in this entire thing, from my perspective, is Russia and is Israel. So all these things are related. So when the president lies to you, it's because he is leveraged by Russia and by Israel, in my opinion. So this is Pete Sessions being asked a question about how far this war is going to go and what we might expect, especially since there's rhetoric around troops being involved. Here you go.
Is moving about 2,500 Marines to the region. Are you okay with putting those two troops on the ground?
Okay, I want you to listen to this. So she asks a question. Are you okay with putting those troops on the ground? Listen to how he answers this question.
I actually spoke to some media last night, and I indicated that I believe that what these 2,500 Marines of the Marine Expeditionary Force would be to probably secure the island. The island is not, in my opinion, boots on the ground.
What?
In
How
combat
so?
circumstances.
It is a territory. It is Iran.
The facility. Well, I'm not going to argue that point. As a matter of fact, you're right. But what I would say is the president has chosen not to obliterate the ability that to get oil, and I think he wants to go secure that to make sure the Iranians don't do themselves in. So I think it's probably wisdom.
What?
Is that boots on the ground? No, not like inside Iran where they're in the cities, to where we go through circumstances that we've had in the past of large areas of population, combatants against us, and it is a mess. I am against what I call the mess, moving people, Marines, snipers into population areas. But
yeah, he is, Jay Nice. So what are we fucking talking about? It's not boots on the ground if it's not like in the streets of Tehran. So you want to explain that to military families? Parents whose children have now been deployed again? You want to say that to a veteran? I'm sure that might have angered some of our veterans that are in the chat this morning. When you were ordered in to go fight a war that we shouldn't have been involved in over lies that we've been told, so the military-industrial complex can continue to enrich itself with the lives of innocents lost across the globe while our own system fucking suffers? That's the argument? Okay. Well,
be necessarily.
I don't even know how to respond to that. But this is Trump talking about the Strait, and I've got a point to make after this.
Hormuz, the Strait. Hormuz, a famous, wonderful, beautiful place, but you wouldn't want to be necessarily sailing a boat there right now.
I would not.
Okay, you know why?
They're laughing?
Not because of them, because of us.
And they're laughing?
Because we've taken out their entire Navy. We've taken out every one of their drone. They call it a drone layer, a mine layer. The specific boats that.
Okay. Well, we have a situation in the Western Hemisphere involving Cuba. You've probably not been paying attention to that. It's been difficult for all of us to pay attention to all of the various bullshit that's been happening. But I've got some sound for you that I'll play in regards to our approach to Cuba now, because we're not done with our imperialism, apparently. So this is what the president had to say when asked about Cuba. Peter Doocy from Fox asked this question.
United States do it. I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good honor. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're very.
I can take it. I can do anything I want with it. Again, conservatives, okay? I don't want to call you all MAGA, but at this point, you're leaving me with not a lot of options. Are you okay? Is Cuba now a threat to the United States? Is it? We're just going to take it?
Weakened nation right now. They were for a long time.
When you're a star, good point, Jen. When you're a star, they let you do it. And then there was this reporting from coming out of Cuba just a couple of days ago. They're in crisis down there. Here you go.
Breaking news into CNN. Cuba's electrical grid has suffered a complete and total collapse. This is according to the country's power operator.
Well,
it's the first nationwide blackout since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to Cuba.
What do you know? Why Cuba now? Why? Western Hemisphere dominance? I think I have this map. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I found this. Let's see. Do I still have it? Is that it? No, that's New Hampshire. That's kind of funny. That's a different map. I'll share that with you guys some different time. let's see. Do I have? I think I have this order that Trump wants as he aligns with his new, sort of his tendencies, his authoritarian tendencies. We'll put it that way. Let's see. Hang on a second. Give me 1 second. I'll find it. I gotta fix some shit because yeah. Here you go. Western Hemisphere, Trump, Putin gets Europe and all of Asia, and then Xi gets everything else. I mean, we joke about it, right? We joke about it, but here we go, right? We talk about Greenland. We've got Venezuela covered now. By the way, congratulations, Venezuela, for winning the World Baseball Classic last night. I highly doubt they're going to get invited to the White House, but just congratulations to them. They were the best team. And then, so we got Greenland, we got Venezuela, we got Cuba now. So we got Trump wanting to dismantle NATO. Who does that benefit? That benefits Putin, so he gets Europe, and then Xi gets most of Africa because of their resources. And who's going to stop them? Right? Who's going to stop them? We joke about this shit, but man, oh man, the more we fucking see it, the more the new world order is forming right in front of us. And we've always been the ones that told that we were the ones that the left is the new world order. Nope. Sorry, but you're wrong. So let's talk about Pete, because Pete's in the news again. Again, this is What the Fuck Wednesday, because there's lots of what the fucks, right? So Pete's a little bit angry, because Pete does not like the way that the press is covering his incompetence. I mean, him doing his job. So here's Pete.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press.
Oh, right.
Specifically you.
You talking to me? Are you talking to me? All right.
You, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump. Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin.
I don't even know where to start on that one. So, Pete, you're in the center of all this. You're in the center of our topic today because you yourself have bought into Russian propaganda. You yourself have been on the front lines spewing this nonsense. You yourself have been involved in these meetings when the president has gone on the record criticizing NATO. So you are flat smack in the middle of this shit, you fucking moron. And by the way, Pete Hegseth is a multiple-time serial abuser, kidnapper, abuser of women, adulterer, etc. I'm not going to judge his alcoholism. That's a disease. I hope he gets help. But he is fucking competent to be doing his job. He is unqualified for that position. Him serving does not give him credibility and or credentials to be the person in charge of the largest military in the world. All right? Okay. A few more things. This is, well, I'll just play this for you. What the fuck? What the fuck? Our president's going to say this about other countries not getting involved.
to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz with more than 30 mine-laying ships destroyed. We hit, to the best of our knowledge, all of their mine-laying ships. Now they can put them on other types of ships, I guess, and drop them in. But we don't know that any have even been dropped in. We're not sure that any have been. That's a big negative for them if they do it. It's a form of suicide. But we don't know that they have dropped any in. But we've hit all 30 of their ships and destroyed them. They're all at the bottom of the sea. We strongly encourage other nations whose economies depend on the Strait far more than ours. You know, we get less than 1% of our oil from the Strait, and some countries get much more. Japan gets 95%. China gets 90%. Many of the Europeans get quite a bit. South Korea gets 35%. So we want them to come and help us with the Strait. We have it in very good shape. The countries, I said, we've already taken care of Iran, but now because of the fact that literally a single terrorist can put something in the water or shoot something or shoot a missile, a small missile, and it's fairly close range because it is a tight area, and which is one of the reasons they've always used that as a weapon. Iran has always used that as an economic weapon, and it's not going to be able to be used very long. Numerous countries have told me they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it, and some aren't. Some are countries that we've helped for many, many years. We've protected them from horrible outside sources, and they weren't that enthusiastic. And the level of enthusiasm, it matters to me. We have some countries where we have 45,000 soldiers, great soldiers, protecting them from harm's way. And we have done a great job. And when we want to know, do you have any minesweepers? Well, would rather not get involved, sir.
Mocking NATO?
I said, for 40 years we're protecting you, and you don't want to get involved in something that is very minor.
You see?
Very few shots going to be taken because they don't have many shots left.
See what I mean?
But they said, would rather not get involved. I just want the fake news media and everybody else to remember that was said because when I've been a big critic of all of the protecting of countries because I know that we'll protect them.
We know.
And we know. If we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time.
Even though the only time that Article 5 has ever been exercised was after the United States got attacked during 9/11. So there's that. Like I said, you can hear all these little fucking nuggets. He's mocking NATO, mocking European partners, mocking allies for not getting involved. The president expressed frustration Monday that some countries have been reluctant to send forces to help reopen the Strait, the critical oil route that is all but shut down since the war in Iran began late last month. Numerous countries have told me, quote, numerous countries have told me that they're on the way. None have. There's no reporting that any country is going to come to our aid. None. Why would they? Numerous countries have told me that they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it, and some aren't. Some are countries that we've helped for many, many years. He's referring to NATO. We've protected them from horrible outside sources, and they weren't that enthusiastic. And the level of enthusiasm, matters to me. What he said at a White House press event, the president declined to say which countries have agreed to help the U.S., saying that NATO countries, quote, should be jumping to help us, but added in a mocking voice that he'd heard from some world leaders, we would rather not get involved, sir. I've been a big critic of all the protecting of other countries because I know that we'll protect them. And if we've ever needed it, if they've ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time. What? Is it making sense yet, MAGA? Are you guys getting it? Do you understand that the American president is compromised big time? You understand that, right? I mean, you don't. You don't understand water. But I'm going to try every single day to get the message through to you. Every day. Here we sit. Our economy is in tatters. 92,000 jobs lost last month from the correction. Inflation is about to fucking skyrocket. Gas is up over $1, $3.85 a gallon. It's going to be about $4 next week. Energy costs are crippling Americans, losing healthcare coverage. And the president of the United States and his family are enriching themselves. They are getting richer and richer and richer every single day. This war that the president has started is benefiting him, his family, his children, his allies, his corporate oligarchic friends. And he's doing it to benefit Russia. By removing the sanctions, their economy was in tatters. Their supply lines were broken because they couldn't resupply because they couldn't sell oil. So what do we fucking do? We remove the sanctions. Yeah, that fucking tracks. That makes perfect sense. Of course. Why wouldn't we do that? Good morning, brother. Welcome to the East Coast, by the way.
Thank you. Greetings and salutations from Atlanta, or as they say, hot Atlanta, which it is not. It is actually quite chilly Atlanta. What in the actual fuck with you East Coast people and turning the heat on and off as you see fit? I bring rays of sunshine from Los Angeles, and I get here, I had to put on a hoodie. It was 40. Bro.
I'm sorry.
You know we don't do well below 50.
You know what that is?
Yes, it's the smallest violin playing My Heart Bleeds for You.
Yes.
Fuck you.
What's up? What's on your mind today, my brother?
Well, I'd just like to remind all of the MAGA men between the ages of 18 and 35. There are these buildings that hold persons known as recruiters. And they have lots of available chairs for you to sit in and have conversations. And you too can sign up and join the fight. So instead of playing Gravy Seal 6, you can actually nut up right now, gentlemen, specifically why I use the term nut up. And you could go to the recruiter's office and you know what's really amazing? If you really want to be a go out there, get it warrior, all you have to do is do what less than 1.8% of United States citizens have ever done, and that is raise your hand and take the oath. But you won't do that because you can't, because you don't have the testicular fortitude to do it. And that's okay. But what you will do is you'll come on to lives and you'll spread crazy conspiracy theories or lies or ask what about Biden or talk about how we're energy independent. By the way, we are not, nor have ever been a single day in history energy independent. And I know that may chafe your hide, MAGA, but I need you to brace for what's coming. Because the average price of gas may be, $3.84 nationally for regular?
Correct.
It will, in most places, be in excess of $5 a gallon for regular quite quickly. And it won't take long. And even when this ends, it's not going to end. Why is that, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's see, who was it that allowed a large refinery to be sold to a foreign government? I'm trying to think of which president that was. Was it Biden? It must have been Biden. Biden must have done that.
Nope.
Oh, wait, no.
What about Biden?
No. Was it Hunter's cock? Did Hunter's cock sign that contract? I mean, it is a beautiful thing to behold.
Hunter's cock signed that thing. Yep, it was Hunter's cock. He did it.
Yep. Oh, wait. It was Hillary's emails.
No, Hunter signed. It was Hunter's cock, and he signed it from the other side of the room. Just saying. I'll leave that right there.
Woo! Not all men are built the same.
It was, somebody just said it was Hunter's auto pen.
It's nice. Nice. Often duplicated, never replicated. I think what really gets me is when the Secretary of Defense gets up there and wants to act tough in front of people who, generally speaking, don't get fisticuffs state. There's a word for you. They may be pugnacious in the way they use the writerly process, but they don't roll up sleeves and take it out to the schoolyard. Someone needs to start calling him out and asking a really simple question. Do you think you're a tough guy or intimidating because you sound like a sixth grader? Could you please answer the question? Because he always wants to make it about the people that raised their hands and served. But I guarantee you, if you ask somebody in the military who is skilled at their job, if they think what they do is hard, the answer is no. Why? Because we practice over and over and over and over again. Would it be difficult for someone not trained to do jobs? 1,000%. Your average airline pilot who never spent any time in a fighter jet could not do what they do. Could he fly the plane or she fly the plane? Most likely, yeah, with a little bit of training, they could figure out how to take off and land, right? The rest of the stuff, no, because again, it takes training. And that's what the military does on a daily basis is we train. But you know what we really don't train for? We really don't train for things that aren't our business. And I'm going to go through just a couple of things that aren't our business. The country of Iran, that is not our business.
Nope.
Listening to a man who for 30 years has lied and is also trying to obfuscate criminal charges in his country, that is also none of our business.
Correct.
What NATO does or doesn't do, for the most part, really not our business, right? It does concern us.
Sure.
We're involved, right? But you know, for the most part, the United States has kind of always been, you know, it's not our business. But you know,
we lost you. There you go.
You can't, and you are literally the stupidest person on the planet. Oh, sorry. God damn it, Atlanta Wi-Fi. It's worse than your fried chicken. If you know, you know.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I'm just saying, they could learn something about the hospitality industry in the city. We are constantly being
you keep cutting in and out.
Distracted.
So we're like,
am I?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi or whatever it might be, but I get your point.
God damn it, drop me then.
Point, I'll drop you. Okay. I get his point. You know, it's the same old script. And I've said this before, right? About how I found some common ground with people on the right, MAGA, regarding no more new wars. I'm like, we're all aligned on that. We can agree. We're going to debate healthcare. We're going to debate education, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to debate all those things. And that's great. We're going to do that. That's awesome. We all found common ground. None of us want this anymore. Nobody wants to be chasing WMDs. Nobody wants to be focusing on, you know, the rise and the profit increases of the military-industrial complex. We all fucking agreed. Here we sit. We all fucking agreed, right? And now we're like, fuck, don't forget, we were all told, if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're going to get spikes in inflation. If you vote for Kamala Harris, gas is going to be approaching $5 a gallon. If you vote for Kamala Harris, we're going to be losing jobs. If you vote for Kamala Harris, we're going to be going to war with Iran. Well, we voted for Kamala Harris. She didn't win, but all that fucking shit is happening. And the hoops, the mental gymnastics that our friends on the right are going through right now to try to justify this is fucking crazy. We talked about this yesterday. They don't want to go back past 1979. They look at the Iranian Revolution as justification for why we are there to take out the regime. They don't want to talk about the 20 or 30 years before that, do they? They don't want to talk about how the Iranians elected democratically, their prime minister, Mossadegh, how he was well liked. He made a decision, the prime minister, to say, you know what? I want to nationalize Iranian oil to benefit our country. It pissed off the West, pissed off the UK, pissed off the Americans. So what did we fucking do? We organized through the CIA and MI6 a fucking coup to remove the duly elected prime minister of Iran and supplant him with the Shah, Western allied Shah of Iran, handpicked and pissed off the Iranian citizens. Why the fuck wouldn't it? He then rules with an authoritarian fist. He enriches himself, right? He benefits the West. And then the Iranian government, the Iranian people have fucking had it. And they said, we're fucking done. They overturn, or they storm the American embassy. They kidnap American students, held them hostage for 444 days, death to America. They don't want to talk about all that shit. They don't want to talk about any of it. They can't, because they can't. First of all, they're not smart enough to look past that, because they're flashed 1979 right in their faces. Doesn't matter, though. Doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter, because the entire movement, the entire MAGA movement, is fueled by hatred. Islamophobia, xenophobia, you know it. It doesn't really matter what it is. They are all on board. And we've got Mike Johnson, bitch boy, being stuck now because members of his own fucking party spewing their anti-Muslim bullshit, which is going to get people killed. So Manu Raja covers the story. I'll play it for you because he does a great job.
Speaker Mike Johnson confronting anti-Muslim rhetoric within the GOP ranks. Two conservative congressmen in particular drawing enormous controversy. Randy Fine of Florida saying that there is not enough Islamophobia in the United States.
We need more. This is, again, Florida. Sorry, again, hashtag get Francis out of Florida. We need more Islamophobia, not less. Fear of Islam is rational. That's a United States congressman. That's what he said, okay?
And also, Congressman Andy Ogles, a conservative from Tennessee, saying that the United States should not be a place where Muslims
don't belong in American society. Pluralism is a lie. Yes, hashtag save Francis, hashtag save Sam, okay? Those need to be trending. 2 United States representatives, okay? 2, saying the same thing. Mike Johnson, they are, bitch boy, they are in your caucus. How are you going to address it? Let's listen.
Should live. Now, Johnson was first asked about these remarks last week at the GOP retreat in Doral, Florida. There, he did not condemn these remarks.
There's a lot of energy in the country and a lot of popular sentiment that the demand to impose Sharia law in America is a serious problem. That's what animates this.
But Johnson was asked again on Tuesday. And this time, he said these were inartful remarks, and he also took issue with some of them.
We should never disclaim whole groups of people. Obviously, we love Muslim people. It's an important culture, and it's part of American society, and we embrace that.
No, you don't.
I think common sense Muslims should be voting for the Republican Party.
Common sense Muslims? Mike, days ago, you said the rise of Islamic extremism and the Sharia law takeover of American democracy is a threat. And now, bitch boy, that you're getting called out, now you want to say we shouldn't be generalizing entire populations? That's what you fucking do every day, you pathetic little fuck. Bitch boy, no Rice Krispie treats for you tonight. That's it. You're done. You're done. I'm mad at you. I'm going to put baby in the corner. You're going to sit there and you're going to have to watch. I don't know what. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make you watch. I'll find something for you to watch. Seriously. You literally attack marginalized communities every fucking day from your purity tower while you and your son are monitoring each other's porn. Here you sit. Here you fucking sit. And you want to try to spin out of this now? Oh, I don't think so. No. Not at all. Not going to happen. It makes me really, I mean, it's not even anger. I mean, I'm past the anger at this point. It's just disgust, right? It's just disgust. Let me see if I have any more on Bitch Boy today. Do I want to spend some more time talking about Bitch Boy? Let's see. There's always room to talk about my little bitch, because he's a bitch. Let's shift gears a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. Everybody keep tapping, please. Kristi Noem, she's back in the story, back in the news. She has been referred to the DOJ and accused of perjury and brazen false statements about the campaign and the $220 million campaign. It's one thing for her to get fired, and she did get fired. Okay, there's no doubt about that. She got fired because she made the president look bad. I know, exactly. Kelly, how do I really feel? So as it sits, outgoing Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem repeatedly misled lawmakers in a brazen attempt to skirt accountability, according to two senior Democratic members of Congress who have referred the Trump administration official to the DOJ for a perjury investigation. After months of evading communities' requests to testify in routine oversight hearings, Secretary Noem made a series of demonstrably false statements in a brazen attempt to undermine critical congressional oversight of the Department of Homeland Security. Senator Dick Durbin and Rep. Jamie Raskin wrote on Monday in a letter to AG Bondi. The Independent has contacted DHS and the Justice Department for a comment. The referral accused Noem, who has been axed from her position and will formally leave the department at the end of the month, of misleading Congress multiple times. A lawmaker said Noem may have falsely claimed President Trump was aware of her department's plans to spend $220 million on a controversial ad campaign that featured the official on horseback in front of Mount Rushmore and other things. During her early March remarks, Noem testified that President Trump was aware of the planned campaign spending, which she said was awarded in a competitive bid process. Trump later told Reuters that he wasn't aware of the spending, and the contracts for the campaign reportedly went to a hand-picked group of firms with ties to Noem and a top advisor. Quote, even if Secretary Noem was the one telling the truth about the president's knowledge, and she may well have been, she flatly misrepresented that the contract had been subject to a competitive bid. The Democratic lawmakers also accused Noem of being reassigned to a diplomatic post overseeing the Shield of the America initiatives, of being untruthful when she said DHS always follows court orders and upholds high detention standards. They pointed to court rulings showing that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, in fact, violated hundreds of court orders in a span of a few months in just Minnesota alone. The congressman also points to irregular allegations and internal audits which have found unsanitary and inhumane conditions inside immigration detention centers, which are on track to have their worst year for in-custody deaths in more than 2 decades. Noem may soon leave DHS, but she will continue to face heavy scrutiny, especially if Democrats manage to retake Congress during the 2026 midterms or future elections. Quote, while we have low expectations that you will pursue this matter given your partisan weaponization of the DOJ, we note that the statute of limitations for perjury and for knowingly and willfully making false statements to Congress is 5 years. DHS, the security's own internal watchdog, is reportedly probing the contracting process behind the $220 million ad campaign, and it previously alleged DHS leadership has systematically destructed the office's work over the last year. So in other words, elect Democrats and hold these motherfuckers accountable. I think Kristi's biggest, I think what she's most upset about is she no longer gets VIP flying on the Jizz jet. Right? Cock air, as somebody called it. Remember that day? You guys were on fire that day. You were all thirsty that day. But anyway. Here's the ironic part about this, is that the two people in the administration that will likely, the fellatio flights, exactly. The, hey now, oof, my back hurts. Don't make me have to shift in my chair. Oh, sorry. Not surprising, but the two people who will likely be out of a job first are the two women in prominent prominent cabinet positions. Kristi Noem, already out. Pam Bondi's next. It's not a coincidence that they were put in those positions. Now, again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Now, I don't know if this is going to work out that way, but the subpoena requires her to appear before Congress on the 14th of April. All right? What's the over-under? What do we think the odds are that Pam Bondi resigns before then? 50-50? What do we think? 50-50 maybe? 60-40 that she doesn't? 70-30? I don't know. 75-25 that she stays? 0? Nobody thinks she will? She won't resign? Okay, Beth. Toy Yoda, how are you today?
Oh, wow. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you today?
Fine, thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, I didn't think I would come up here so fast, but I wanted to kind of pick your brain about the ambassador to Ireland, the United States ambassador to Ireland, and the fact that the golf, some kind of World Club golf thing or something is this year, and it's at Trump's golf course. Because you were the first thing I saw this morning when you came on was you were talking about him not divesting from his companies.
Correct.
And I caught that yesterday when he was talking about that, and I was like, hang on a second. So
yeah. Nope, where'd you go?
I'm here. That was just so blatant. Like, that's a...
Oh, yeah. Yep. It's a violation of, again, there's ethics connected to it. It's not really a law. You're expected to divest, but because his businesses are in a privately, a family trust and not a blind trust, he benefits.
Yeah. So he picks an ambassador that is not for the country. It's just about golf. It's just about.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to bring some attention to that because I thought that was really wild, and I've not seen it anywhere, anyone talking about it. So if could you talk about that? I mean, I don't have to be up here for it. I just want to hear what you have to say about it because
Yeah, I will drop you down. Thanks for jumping in today. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is that people. Thank you for jumping in. It's people who are loyalists in positions that the president can benefit from. So the Irish ambassador is going to turn a blind eye. We know of the corruption. We know about the layers of fraud. We know about the foreign investments. We know about the secrecy. We know about World Liberty Financial. We know about the emoluments clause being violated. We know about the Qatari jet. And these are things I'm just literally pulling off the top of my head. They've enriched themselves to the tune of billions of dollars that we know of. Okay? That we know of. I need some more water. I'll be right back.
Facts still matter, so stand up, lean in. You don't need a cape just to help someone win. Do something simple, do something true. Make a sandwich for a friend, hold the door for someone too. Facts still matter. It starts with you. Check on your neighbor, share what you can do. One small action turns into a wave. Do something today, be the change that you crave. Facts still matter. It starts with you. Facts still matter. It starts with you.
To the Post. So, think about the people who are in, think about the people who are in positions that have direct connections to the enrichment of the Trump family. It's ambassadors, right? It's people that are in the intelligence community. It's people who are in the financial network. It's people that are connected to policies regarding crypto. The entire world, right, is at Trump's disposal because of obviously the prominence of the position of presidency. But when you are making these sidebar deals, and I'm glad our previous guest pointed it out, this is one of those things that goes underreported. This is a statement from the president. I think I still have the sound. Here you go. This is what she was talking about. And I played this to start the show today, but let's do it again.
Irish Open at a property that happens to be owned by yours truly, but I have nothing to do with it. I own it, but I don't even like to talk to my son. He says, Dad, we're doing great with the I'm allowed to run it, but I don't choose to. Dad, we're doing great. Eric calls up. He's doing a good job. Do you like Eric? I think so, right? Who doesn't like Eric? But he calls up, Dad, we're doing a great job in Ireland. What's going on? Well, we're doing this and that. I said, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it.
It goes back to the enrichment model, right? It's the same fucking script across. I mean, charging the Secret Service to stay at Trump properties like 5 times what the going rate would be. Similarly, when his PAC meets or they organize events, they're at Trump properties, which means he's enriching himself there. He's not divested. It was supposed to be put into a blind trust. It was put into a family-run trust. Listen, the Board of Peace is just a money laundering. It's an enrichment grift money laundering scheme. He puts himself as the chairman, the permanent chairman, the chairman emeritus, or whatever that might be. You are not the president of the United States. Trump himself is the boss. $1 billion, $1 million, $100 million, whatever it might be. Come on, MAGA. Come on. Meanwhile, you've got people in the administration saying this about the crisis that the Trump administration started. As the president is enriching himself, his family is enriching himself, the people in his circle enriching themselves. A lot of those same people, the billionaire class, are also connected to Epstein. And the rest of us are fighting for fucking table scraps, and you get Kevin Hassett saying this.
But the fact is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound.
No, it's
and
not.
that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
What? It's consumers are the least of our concern right now? Really? How would you like to deflect away from that? This is the frustrating part to me. Like I talk about this a lot, and I'm just going to say it. This is the most frustrating part to me, is that as a progressive, nihilistic, pragmatic, libertarian, left-leaning libertarian, I've done the political compass test, by the way, and that's where I sit on that spectrum, okay? I care about the most hardcore, MAGA, anti-Semite, racist bigot. I want to make sure that they have health insurance. It's really that simple. We are out here fighting for them. So when we say, what the fuck, it's like, you guys, we are literally fighting to make your lives better, not just ours. Let's put the flag in the ground again for democratic socialism. Right? Seriously. Because it would fix America. There's no fucking doubt in my mind that it could. So we're sitting up here every day talking about the corruption at the top rung of our government. And everybody on the right, well, all politicians lie. It's such a weak fucking argument. It's so weak. You don't have the information. You don't have the facts on your side. You just don't. What? Not all people are fucking bad. Not all rich people are so you call her bad. Tax reform is a fucking must. Kat, I'm not sure I understand your statement. If you want to come up and tell me about it, you can. But again, we've got 900 plus billionaires in our country. Remember, we talk about this. Their cumulative wealth sits at $8 trillion. They've enriched themselves to like $1.5 trillion just since Trump took office. And Kevin Hassett, who pulls the lever on economic policy, says, we don't give a fuck about consumers. You're not going to get an invitation to the ballroom. It's the same fucking script every day. Every day. Wars are a distraction. $1 billion a day we're spending. $30 billion if we ingested $30 billion into the social safety nets, the amount of lives we could change, that's America first. That's what we all want. Well, I didn't say we all. That's what we should want. Let me see. I have some other stuff I want to play for you guys. It's difficult to have a political show and not play sound from the president, but sometimes it's necessary.
Is Iran now a bigger foreign policy priority for you than China? And on Cuba, the Cuban government.
Iran is just a military operation to me. Iran is something that was essentially largely over in 2 or 3 days.
What?
Because the Navy was wiped out almost immediately. The Air Force.
What?
Came next.
What?
The anti-aircraft came next. I mean, we're flying over Iran. We could take out their electric capacity in 1 hour. We have all the. There's nothing they can do right now because everything is knocked out. They have no radar, no anti-aircraft. They have nothing, and we don't. And it was a decision I made. We discussed it. Pete, Marco, JD, all of us, Chris. We discussed it. We can knock out their electricity in a matter of minutes if we wanted to. There's nothing they can do about it. We can knock out their oil in Carg Island. The only thing we didn't take down was their oil because if we knock out, I call them the pipes, very complex. But if you do that, it'll take them forever to rebuild, meaning whoever, and hopefully it's a sane group of people, but whoever it is that's going to be running that, and we're going to try to get people that are going to run it well, and it's going to be a prosperous.
Catch that? Catch that little bit of regime change rhetoric there? Catch all that? Mm-hmm. Yep. Sure enough. Uh-huh. When we pick the next leader. Got it. Okay, let me, something else I wanted to get to that I didn't cover before. It kind of speaks to what we've been talking about a little earlier. Sorry, I'm not comfortable at the moment. I'll get there, though. Jordan Klepper. Jordan Klepper is one of those people that I hope gets remembered. When we moved through this era of our press and media, just because of the way in which he was able to expose a lot of people at Trump rallies. So this is an interesting story that he told on this podcast that he was on, and I think it kind of speaks to a lot of what we're saying today, right? This epitomizes MAGA to me. So here you go.
He drove down from maybe Pennsylvania down to Washington, D.C., day of January 6th, met up with some people, tailgated, shotgunned some beers, went to the Capitol, got with some guys, fought with cops. There's video. He punched a cop in the face, and then he goes inside, climbs inside a window, goes inside the Capitol, gets arrested. They have all the video of punching of the cop, all this kind of stuff. He goes in, he pleads guilty, spends time in prison, has prison tattoos of the Capitol on it. He showed it to me all. And this is a man who drove to January 6th, punched a cop in the face, pled guilty. And when I asked him who did January 6th, he was like, Antifa. And I was like, you did January 6th. You did. Yeah. You drove there. You punched that cop. Yeah. You stood up in court and you said, I am guilty. And then when I press you, you're like, well, I was coerced to do this. Or what? Like, he had an ego that wouldn't allow him to say, like, I was completely manipulated. Yeah. Like, he acted of his own volition to do all these things and would tell you to your face that, of course he did. Right. But still, in his own head, he can't even comprehend that he was pulled into the mob to do these things.
That's the cult. Right there. That's it. You drive to the Capitol at the direction of the president. He tells you that the election was stolen from you. It wasn't. He lied to you. He primed the pumps all summer long. He gave you all this rhetoric. He told you to be hangry at. You drive down there. You participate. You beat up a cop. You go to the Capitol. You break the fucking law. You confess to your crimes. You go to jail. You get a prison fucking tat. You probably sing in the fucking choir. You get pardoned. And then when you're asked the question, who did it? And the answer is Antifa. This is the fight, you guys. And I've said this a million times. Those people vote, and they are loyal, and they will vote for Trump again if they're given the opportunity. They will align. They will walk in unison. So, leftists, please take direction from Jasmine Crockett if you are in Texas, or if you didn't get your candidate during primary season. If you're a progressive candidate, believe me, there's no one who wants more progressives elected than me, but I know the assignment. Because I've been taught by black women how to move differently in society. And my goal is harm reduction. Because I want to survive today so that we can thrive tomorrow. And I can't do that if entitled leftists don't show up. So please take notes from the people who are advising you. We'd like to participate in this fight with you. And then we can argue about it afterwards. And then we can demand change in our systems. And then we can lobby together to get more down-ballot progressives elected in state houses, in legislative bodies across the country, on Supreme Courts, and city councils, on school boards. I'm with you. I am there with you 1,000,000%. I need you to show that same energy, though. I need you to say, listen, I don't like the system, but I have friends in marginalized communities that I care about, and I want them protected. And right now in our system, I've got to focus on what Steve told me to focus on, which was harm reduction. Get a tattoo across your forehead if you have to. Write it on your mirror in the morning. Whatever it takes. That has got to be your message. Can we find common ground on that, please? Because I know there's a lot of folks who follow me, who message me. People have messaged me saying, I can't accept voting for a guy like Tallarico because he's just part of the machine. You're not getting the message. It's got to resonate with you. It's got to sink in. If you want the change that you say you want, you not participating is not getting us there. Right? You not participating is just not getting us there. So this is a tough love moment. I really need you to understand the assignment. Listen to black women, please. Learn how to move differently. Learn what's at stake. Every time when we need help, they show us the way. Why can't we return the favor? It's not that the left is dysfunctional. It's the left has got a big tent. It's a big problem. It's a good problem and it's a bad problem. Remember, the right falls in line, the left falls in love, and that's dangerous. And yes, messaging is a problem, no doubt about it, but it's more about apathy, right? It's more about the energy that we need to change this shit because it's there. We've gone through the exercise of what a matriarchy would look like. We made comparisons to countries around the world who prioritize the things that should matter. Ranked choice voting, I agree, D. Ranked choice voting. We're not going to get ranked choice voting unless we get more Democrats elected because Republicans would never go for it. They won't. Okay? They won't go for it. That's the point. So if you like ranked choice voting, absolutely. I think it's great. That's true democracy because you're not restricted to just your party. You can vote for whomever you want. And then as you go through the rounds, people who don't measure up get chopped down, then you end up with the best candidate that most people voted for. We've got work to do, you guys. You have a lot of work to do. And again, this goes back to the Do Something tour, right? Which is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get more people involved. We're trying to get more people energized to vote. I promise you have my word that when I'm out talking to people, I'm going to approach this as much as agnostically as I possibly can. I just want people to participate. I really do. Yes, I'm a bleeding heart progressive. I'm a radical because I care about human rights. Fine, I'll take that. But not when I'm out talking to people. When I'm out talking to people, I just want people to understand what's at stake and why it is that we're encouraging folks to get involved. So I think what I'll do is I'll just play this real quick because it's effective. I think it's. I want to thank everybody who's helped me produce it. So I'll play this for you guys real quick. And if you want to donate, you can. Honest. Hold on. A lot of people. Honest. A lot of people in this country are tired. Not just busy tired. I mean soul tired. Tired of working hard and still feeling like they're falling behind. Tired of watching the news and feeling powerless. Tired of hearing promises every election season and then watching nothing change. And if you've ever felt like your vote doesn't matter, like your voice doesn't count, I want you to know something. You're not alone, and you're not wrong for feeling that way. Because when you feel ignored long enough, you stop believing anyone is listening. And when you stop believing anyone is listening, you stop showing up. But here's what I've learned in my life. The moment that good people stop showing up is the moment the wrong people take over the room. That's why I'm launching something called the Do Something Tour. Not because I think I have the answers, not because I'm here to tell anyone what to think, but because I believe we're losing something precious in this country, and that's our faith in each other. I'm going to travel the country to sit down with people who feel forgotten, people who feel dismissed, people who feel like the system is built for someone else. And I'm going to listen. I want to hear what broke your trust. I want to hear what you've lived through. I want to hear what you wish the people in power actually understood about your life. Because the truth is, democracy is not a speech. It's not a slogan. It's not something that happens once every 4 years. Democracy is people. It's parents trying to keep their kids safe. It's workers trying to keep food on the table. It's communities trying to stay whole. It's people who don't want to be a headline. They just want to be okay. And I know this. If we want change, we can't just hope for it. We have to participate in it. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you to know every issue. I'm not asking you to trust politicians. I'm asking you to trust your own worth. To remember that your voice matters, even if it's been ignored. To remember that your vote matters, even if it hasn't felt like it has. And to remember that your presence matters, because this country belongs to you, too. So this is my invitation. Come back in, not because the system deserves you, but because your community does, your kids do, your future does. This is the Do Something Tour. And if you've ever felt powerless, I want you to hear me clearly. You still have power. So, let's do something together. Kind of fires me up, I got to tell you. So I want to thank Gravedigger. I want to thank Gregory. I want to thank Sam for helping us get that produced and playing. So I also want to thank Aaliyah for your kind contribution. I appreciate you very, very much. Hector, thank you, bro. Hector says, favorite white man fund. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for always doing something. Hearts in chat for everybody who's donated today. I appreciate you guys. I got Gigi, I got Tamisha, I got Dana. Listen, we talk about this shit every fucking day, guys, and I don't. Part of me, I struggle sometimes because the news is difficult to report on, and I've had moments where I'm like, am I doing more harm than good here? And I don't think so, because people keep coming back, right? People come back, and people rely on us in the way in which we report our news. And I want to say this, I say this a lot. I could not do this without you all, and in particular, my amazing mod team. I love them like they are family, because they are. So I think it's important that we understand what it is that we're fighting for. So this entire push on Do Something is literally just to remind folks that we don't have to accept this shit, which is why I get frustrated with leftists who don't show up. It's why I get frustrated. That's why I get bothered by it, because we can sit in a room together and agree on 99% of the things that matter. But when the time comes to vote, you don't show up. You just don't show up. And that is troubling to me. And I don't understand why. I hear your rhetoric, but it doesn't track. Okay? It doesn't track. I know that voting is not enough. That's why we talk about, in terms of doing something, involves helping out a neighbor, helping out a friend, making a sandwich for somebody, putting socks and menstrual products in your car in case you're driving by a houseless shelter and you can bring them in. Dropping things off at your local food pantry, volunteering in your community. These are all things that we can do because it's there. It's ours to take. They took it from us. They being the billionaire oligarch class. They took it from us. Do you want it back? If you do, and you're like, what the fuck? if you're tired of listening to, rich men take advantage of a system that benefits them, if you're tired of listening to the stories of survivors and victims and you're disgusted by it, again, at the hands of the same men in our country that are setting economic policy, then do something about it. Please. Let me thank a couple other people. I got Char. Thank you again, Char. I appreciate you. You're very kind. Also, I want to thank Josie. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate you. That's very kind of you. That's very, very kind. Appreciate you all. And I think I got everybody covered there. Let me check here one more time. Rainey, thank you. Pretty in pink. I appreciate you saying that. Thanks very much. It's very kind of you. All right. Let me shift gears a little bit. We've made a commitment here to, don't want to bring down the positive vibe that we're feeling at the moment, but we still have a lot of things that we have to address. There's more and more information coming available from release of documents connected to the Epstein files, because again, it's day 89 of the federal government under the direction of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi violating federal law by not releasing everything they were supposed to do under the Epstein File Transparency Act. Okay? On Wednesdays, we wear pink. Yes, we do. Thank you for the Mean Girls reference. Appreciate that. So there is a designer who worked on Epstein Island, and he was interviewed recently. His name is Robert Courtier, and I will play the sound for you. Trigger warnings, okay?
And I said to him, oh my God, are you expecting grandchildren? And he said, no, these are for the girls.
That's architect and interior designer Robert Couturier. He was hired by Jeffrey Epstein in 2010 to work on his island. He worked for a few months and then he quit. Couturier told the FBI that one of the reasons he decided to quit were those specific demands from Epstein.
Especially for the bunk rooms, they had to be for girls, dance pink and this sorts of things.
So there's no mistaking this wasn't for women.
There's no mistaking. You don't put women on bunk beds, I'm sorry. There was another little room with computers, and I said, what is this room? And he said, this room is for the girls when they have fun. And they play with their computers. The whole house was very odd because we were on the beach and the house had heavy dark curtains everywhere. The windows were never really opened. It felt terrible. The girls and the young women who went on the island were basic prisoners. You couldn't leave.
We dug through the files released by the Department of Justice and found the pictures and videos that show the signs of something being off on the island, even as rich and powerful guests visited. Those signs were impossible to ignore, says this designer. What do you think about the people who did go to the island and say they never saw anything?
Listen, I think you can decide that you're blind. You can decide that you only want to see what you want to see. But the idea that a person would go to that island and not see something weird is impossible to me. For me to have seen it, everybody else had to see it.
When you think back to how obvious it was to you, do you wonder about, no one saying anything back then?
I've been wondering for the last 16 years. If in 2010 I knew it and we all knew it and I was interrogated and nothing happened, and that we could have saved so many young women that wouldn't have had to go through what they went through.
But they didn't get saved, sadly. Good morning, my brother. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for letting me hang out for a while last night. That was wild. Holy shit, that was wild. You've been attracting the, well, you always get an interesting crowd, Hector, but in particular lately, there's been some, you had the cream of the crop. We'll leave it at that.
I am convinced it is because I wear pink. So from Saturday to this upcoming Saturday, I've decided to only wear more quote unquote feminine colors. Reason being is because I think my Saturday stream, we had so many people just coming in and just calling me gay. And I love it when they do that because they think it's an insult. That's the greatest compliment you could get. And I just said, okay, screw it. I'm just going to keep going. And I've noticed it's been tracking with the colors I wear. They wild out. And I think it's one hell of an indicator of their struggling and turning with their sexuality. But the reason I came up here is to ask anyone, particularly after the commercial you just played, was anyone else set for the Do Something tour? It's...
So little inside baseball. My friend Hector and I have apparently we've fallen into this game to see how much we can make the other blush. Well, you are now in the lead, sir. You are now in the lead. I will give you that honor, no doubt.
Oh, you thought I wasn't gonna get my revenge for what you did yesterday? Y'all, real shit. I'm a straight man, okay? Ain't nothing changing that. But I can acknowledge the beauty in other men. In fact, it's a beautiful man. This beautiful evil man, comes up on my live, all right? And he compliments me. I don't remember exactly what he said. I think it was something along the lines of beautiful. Had me melting like a fucking block of ice on a Texas sidewalk in the summer. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Oh, don't make
It was crazy. So yeah, well, I'm gonna get my revenge, and this is not the start of it. This is gonna be an ongoing thing. Hope y'all are prepared. But anyway,
so what you're saying basically is it's on.
Oh yes,
what you're saying.
6,000%.
Okay,
absolutely. Is.
Okay, I'm down. Okay.
But no, y'all, just here to do the PSA part as well. Please make sure we're doing all the things to keep this platform going, especially with the random algorithm changes of TikTok. So if you haven't followed Factsstillmatter, hit that follow button in the top left corner. The heart me's, TikTok recognizes those as well. The more fan club members, the more it will push you out to the FYP. And we need more platforms like this that is very much just going over the news. Facts works every single day to bring you guys different pieces of information, all pivotal to something that the news media, the big ones, aren't covering on a daily basis. So it keeps you very informed. Some of the very same things that I hear here are things that I will go double check, which I mostly don't have to, and use in my own lives. And he's being a great help to this community, great help to people who want to do something. So the big thing is making sure that you can support in all the ways that you can. And of course, that doesn't always mean financially. You can tap that screen. Like I said, you can hit the follow button. You can share out the live with your friends and family. Get that out to as many people as you possibly can. That is all super helpful. And for those of the individuals who may have some coins to spare, although I understand why you may not, it's a very tough economy right now. We've seen the gas prices. We've seen the grocery prices. To anyone else who can help, also make sure that you hit up the links in the bio. I don't necessarily push so much TikTok gives anymore because TikTok takes too damn much. The best way to support your independent content creators, your independent journalists, which is exactly what I would classify Facts as, is by hitting up the links in the bio. If you want to support his Do Something tour, which is super duper huge, I'm very much a fan of that. You know how to do it. So make sure we're taking care of the people who are taking care of us intellectually. And another thing, and I'll drop down, I'm trying to think of a way to reach third party voters. So that's going to be a tall order for me specifically, because I'm not going to lie, they're just about as much, or if not more, infuriating than MAGA at this point for me.
Yeah.
But I was trying to find a way to appeal to them, and I think I was thinking about, and this is something I've used recently in regards to. Thank you so much, Randy, for the gifts. Ranked choice voting. So something I've done recently is I've told them, well, if we have an issue with the electoral college and the two-party system, I find it funny how they don't think we have an issue with that too. I've been trying this new argument.
Yeah, good point.
Where
good point.
We tell them that it's only Democrats. It's only people on the Democratic side, not the party, but only people on the Democratic side who actually support ranked choice voting, because we already have it in places like New York and whatnot. So I'm trying to find a way to craft an argument to tell them that the best way that we all get what we want, which is the weakening of the two-party system, is to vote Democrat right now. So I'm still crafting it up, seeing how it works.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's like, if you want more options electorally, then would you consider ranked choice voting? And if you would consider ranked choice voting, then you have to vote for Democrats because they're the only party that supports it.
Yes. Obviously, for you and I, that's the end of it, but they're going to rebut it. So I'm crafting up something, and I'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I want you guys to point this out if you know anyone who were third-party voters. Like, let them know that. Like, literally the best way to get to where they want is if we had some type of coalition, some type of lobby, some type of dedicated call where we're letting our representatives know this is what we want. And then, in my opinion, I think competition helps. I think that would encourage better people, better candidates. So we're not ending up with some of the trash that we have to vote for because they're better than the next GOP nut. So just something to think about.
That's a really good point. Thank you as always. I'm surprised, though, that you haven't bothered to tell anybody about your new side business. OH, only Hector. Oh, I dropped one at the end and I didn't even let you rebut it. Yes. Facts takes the lead. Facts takes the lead. I love you, my dude. Yeah, I mean, the argument about ranked choice voting, I think, is a good one, because that's probably the only way we'll get to. It's going to take a long time to get rid of the Electoral College. I'm not even sure how far the appetite's going to go for that. It's going to require some significant changes, but you could baby step your way to it, right? You could say, all right, we're still going to run under the Electoral College system, but the electoral votes will be appointed and assigned because the states are now doing ranked choice voting. I think Maine has it. I want to say Iowa has ranked choice. We can look that up. But I think it's a viable solution, because it opens up, if the complaints are legitimate complaints that the two-party system is what's holding us back, and does Alaska have as well, that we agree with, right? We agree that it's not Iowa. Iowa doesn't have it. I thought Iowa had ranked choice. No, maybe not. Could be wrong about that. Anyway, doesn't matter. I digress. The idea behind getting more people involved, and I'm going to say this, and thank you for that thought, Hector, because that's now my brain is spinning. I want more people as part of the electoral process. Now, the challenge that we're going to face is, for some reason, we as a nation have decided that we have to hold our politicians to a higher standard. Why? Why do we need to do that? Why can't we just hold people to the same standards we would hold ourselves? Why can't we just try to elect regular, everyday people? People with bad backs, people with perhaps some questionable things that they've done in their past, people who are not perfect, people who are human. I want people to be human. If you make mistakes, own your fucking mistake, own up to your mistake, accept the fact that we are fucking human, that we're going to make mistakes, and just strive to be better. Isn't that, don't we hold ourselves to that? Don't we hold our children to that? Thank you, Paige. Don't we hold our children to that? Shouldn't that be the way that we approach this? We shouldn't be holding anybody to a higher standard. I mean, there's people that I respect that I hold to a high standard because I think they deserve to be held to a high standard because they're amazing individuals. And let me rephrase. I don't hold anybody to a standard higher than I would hold myself to, right? So if that's the case, then we should accept the fact that we're going to get people that may not have the Ivy League education. I think Graham Plattner is going to be an interesting test case, to be honest, because politically, ideologically, he aligns with what pretty much all progressives want. Yes, some questionable decisions he's made in his past. Yes, a Yahtzee-themed tattoo that he probably took too long for him to cover and or address. Very, very true. But what does he need to do to gain your support? He's said all the right things, right? He's got the middle class. He's got the working poor. He's got changes to the system clearly centered on his campaign. He's likable. He's relatable. He's got charisma. I don't know what Maine's going to do. I think it's going to be an interesting test because he is leading there. He's raising money. And like I said before, if we want more people involved in politics, aren't we going to have to accept more faults? Obviously, we've all have lines. I've certainly got a line, right? I absolutely have a line. My line is, if you are an abuser of women, then game over. That's it. That's if you're an abuser of women, if you're an abuser of children, that's it. You're not going to get my support. You're not. Plain and simple. And there's probably a few other things in there too. You know, it's like we're going to have to ask these questions of ourselves. Like this purity test, right? You're never going to find perfection. You're never going to find the perfect candidate. You're never going to find somebody who checks every single box. And I appreciate what you said, Hector. And that's kind of the point of Do Something, right? It's just to remind people what's important to you. If you don't like the system, then be a part of the change. You know, it's not going to just happen, right? You know? So when you're faced with a decision on election day, are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to vote with harm reduction in mind? Please listen to black women. Please. Every single election cycle, it's the same fucking script. We have to do better. I know we can do better. I know we can. But it's going to take all of us. It's not going to just take talking heads. It's not going to just be me talking to you 4 hours a day. It's not going to just be the great work that Hector does, the great work that Erica does, the great work that a lot of our creators in our little family do. We're just trying to remind people what's at stake here. And I'm going to use that opportunity. Please support independent journalists, because I classify everybody as such. When you're out here just trying to poke holes in truth to power and poke holes in the bullshit, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of mental energy and all that kind of shit. You know, I consider my place as privileged as a white man. I know I've been on panels with Hector and with Erica, and to hear people coming up and just dropping the N-word, and the fact that they just sit there calmly and they fucking take it. That's a lesson for all of us in patience and resolve, and reminding folks what's at stake. You know, it's like that shit takes guts. And I don't know if either one of them in particular take enough credit. So I'll give you I'll give you your flowers. So take your damn flowers. And for women who create content around this space, you know, I think about Emma, and I think about Ash, and I think about others, and I think about Monica, and I think about Olive, and they sit there and they listen to the most ridiculous, horrible, misogynistic, grape apologist bullshit, and they'll take it because they have a bigger fish to fry. They're trying to remind folks that these people, if you don't vote for a Democrat, these people are going to be in charge. I've made a line here that I don't platform that shit. That's my line. That's fine. I don't have anybody else to say that to. Right? If people want to run their lives the way they want, and there's lots of ways we can approach this kind of shit. But again, we got to stop with this purity test garbage. Enough. Stop holding elected officials accountable. Stop worshiping politicians. Stop doing it. You can admire them. You can respect them. I have tremendous respect for Bernie Sanders because he's been the same person he's been for 40 fucking years. Hasn't changed. He's been the same person. And does he have some legacy racism connected to him? Of course he does. He's an 80-year-old white guy in America, but he's doing the work. He's clearly centered on the things that should matter. And I respect that. I really, really respect that. And I think that should be the bar for all of us, right? That's my hope, at least. Isabel, how are you today?
I'm fine, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What can I do for you? What's
I just wanted to come up. I'm a little nervous because of the volume of people in here. But, Steve, I think I told you, but I'm a Mainer. I'm also a volunteer for Graham Plattner. I'm very excited about him. Did you see what happened yesterday with Mills and,
I did not.
And her ads? So she put out a really bad ad campaign around the Reddit posts, specifically around his views around women and SA. It was, in my opinion, quite distasteful. And I just wanted to highlight or maybe look into it. Graham had a press conference in Augusta to apologize and to address it, this similar to what he addressed in the fall. I think what I'm getting really upset about is these attacks are coming from the Democratic Party and the DNC. I also have been hanging out with some military that are deploying both here as well as in the UK, when they look at the topics that our Democratic Party are trying to attack him, i.e. the tattoo, as well as some of the comments around that topic, they instantaneously go to what the skull and crossbones means to a Marine, which is not what they're making it out to be, as well as comments around that I have to say were not great, but he has said it doesn't align with his position, but they felt that he was clearly talking about the status within the military in terms of SA versus civilian life. And he also had 4 tours of active duty, 3 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, and has admitted to his challenges reintegrating back to society with PTSD. And I'm taking a lot of what the Democrats are doing as a disservice to our veterans. And I wanted to highlight just so you knew what was happening, but also kind of address some of the topics from my point of view regarding Graham.
I get it. It's complicated. I understand. I understand. And I'm not here advocating one way or another. I just feel like if we're going to try to flip the script, we're going to have to accept more people being involved in politics. And listen, if we're holding politicians to high standards, the people who run our government now it's a network of predators. It's a network of people, corrupt individuals taking advantage of every loophole, every judicial ruling, ignoring the courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If that's who we are as a nation, it's unfortunate. But I would rather have people that are willing to fight, that have got skeletons in their closet, as long as they're being honest about it. As long as they're willing to face it, as long as they're willing to accept criticism, as long as they're willing to own their shit and then prove by their actions what they're going to do differently. Because words are irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. And I think there are legitimate criticisms that could be pointed Graham Plattner's way. I really feel they're legitimate. I think he mishandled a lot of things early on. It doesn't change the fact that politically, a lot of people align with what he's saying. I'm sure you would agree with that. There are some things that he probably mishandled.
He messed up. He has come out and he apologized consistently. He's addressed it. I don't align with the comments he made, given they were old, very old. He has evolved. I think there's a big message to our young people who's grown up with COVID and online. It's a different environment. I'm sure all of us have, trolled or laughed or made jokes on TikTok. I know I have. But if we're going to, not allow people to correct their mistakes, and we look to, I call it the purity police, that look for people that have been perfect, or I personally believe perceived perfect, because I don't think there's anybody that has been perfect. I think we have a big problem.
I would agree. The question in the chat was asking this, and I was just thinking that too. If Janet Mills is the nominee against Susan Collins, are you voting for Janet Mills?
I will, because of harm reduction, of course.
Exactly. And it's not that you didn't even pause. You didn't even hesitate. And that's the point. You said you work on Plattner's campaign.
I do.
I'd love to have him on the show. If there's any possibility of you can helping me make that happen, if he's got the time to do it, I'd love to have him.
Okay, I don't have direct access, but I do know the lead campaign coordinators, and I can bring that to them and ask.
I reached out a while back, and I didn't hear back from anybody. So if there's any way you can even just put me in contact with them, I'll make the case. If there's anything you can do, I'd love it.
I would be happy to help you, Steve. I'll do my best.
Thank you, Isabella. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for your honesty. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I appreciate you, friend. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you too, Steve. Thank you.
All right. Bye. That'd be awesome. Right. So this is going to be an interesting test, right? This is going to be an interesting test. I understand there's complexities to all of this. We are all flawed as humans. We all have our lines, right? We all have our lines. And the question then becomes, what are we willing to do to try to make the future better for others? Can't go back in time. Can't fix the things that we did in the past. We can own them. We can regret them, and then we can move to try to make things better. So apparently this is Markwayne Mullin is going through his Senate confirmation. Markwayne Mullin's a fucking idiot. Rand Paul is questioning him. So Rand Paul plays footage of Trump DHS Secretary Pick starting a fight in a previous Senate meeting. And this is how Markwayne Mullin responds to that question.
But really, there's a pattern of this. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
You guys have heard this. Basically threatens somebody, says, you know, stand up, you stand up.
We can finish it here. Okay, that's fine. Perfect. You want to do it now? I'd love to do it right now. Well, stand your butt up there. You stand your butt up. Oh, stop it. No, sit down. Sit down. You know, you're a United States Senator.
Bernie.
Okay, sit down, please.
Bernie stepping in.
Hold it. If he got up too, would you have gone at it right there? I would have probably jumped over the dais at that point.
You have to be called out on. It's not this guy continues to get away with this stuff, and it's just, you know, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you get punched in the face. Well, go back to the 1800s and 1700s. They used to have canes.
And duels. They used to have duels. Yeah.
Right. And there's a way that
he doubled down. He doubled down.
I ignored him before time to be part of that. And people say, yes, you're supposed to ignore it. Well, you know, I'm not a very good Christian. I try to be a good Christian. And I know people say you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I prefer the David method.
But we need to move from an almost...
By the way, I'm not afraid of Biden. I will Biden.
Fighting?
I'm not afraid of. Don't forget, this guy is an former MMA fighter. So I'm not afraid of fighting. I'm not afraid of violence. You sit down. You're a United States Senator. Don't make me get out my mittens. You sit down. This is not good for my heart. Where's the syrup?
I'm in a fight. I'm doing a fight. I'll do anything. I'm not about it. And I don't care where I fight. It's just
in hindsight, any regrets?
No, I really don't.
Any regrets? Nope. Don't.
So no regrets. In fact, even after your anger had cooled, you were still bragging that if he'd only been brave enough to stand up, you'd have jumped over the dais and taught him a lesson, because that's how men should settle their differences. Do you think fighting as a resolution for political differences is a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
As you can notice over my shoulder here is my good friend Sean O'Brien.
Oh, he brought him back in. He tokenized the guy. So, do you remember when we got into the conversation on Monday about the manosphere and about the red pill effect and about, toxic masculinity and bravado and all that kind of shit? That is Markwayne Mullin. That is the guy that could potentially be at the helm of DHS. I'm starting to think that he may not get the confirmation. I don't know. I mean, we know that the Republican parties are lockstep. I highly doubt that Tom Tillis is gonna support him. It doesn't sound like Rand Paul's a very big fan either. Then there's a couple of others. So wouldn't it take 4? Because you got to get the number under 50 because J.D. Vance could break the tie for the confirmation. Don't forget, Pete Hegseth was confirmed with J.D. Vance breaking the tie. Could it happen again? I don't know. Maybe. Is there any more on that? Let me see. Okay. What's this? No, you're not, Jess. You'll always win. Got some economic news here. This came out this morning. Wholesale prices rose 0.7% in February, much more than expected, and up 3.4% annually. This is the PPI, the Producer Prices Index, a measure of pipeline costs that producers receive for their products increased a seasonally adjusted 0.7% in the month. The core PPI was up 0.5%. On a 12-month basis, PPI inflation was at 3.4%, the most since February of 2025, while core was at 3.9%, according to Trump's BLS. Food prices rose 2.4%, while energy was up 2.3%. Within food, the index for fresh and dry vegetables soared 49%. Well. That's not good. Here's some sound to go with that story. Wholesale prices rose, providing another sign that inflation continues to percolate, even aside from rising energy costs. Yeah, we know that. Hang on a second. Let me play this sound for you. Everybody keep tapping. Let's see if we can make our way through the end of the show here today. So this is from CNBC. Here you go.
CME in Chicago, and Rick, that data is just seconds away.
Yes, we're looking for our February read on the wholesale side of inflation, the producer price index. Headline number expected to be up 0.3%. Comes in hot, up 0.7%. Up 0.7. That would be the highest level since it was up 0.8 in July of 25. Now, strip out food and energy, call it the core, up 0.5%. That's a couple tenths higher than we were expecting. However, unlike the headline number, which was above last month, up 0.5 on ex-food and energy is below 0.8 last month, up 0.5. Well, 0.8 was last month. This would actually be the lightest going back to November of last year. Now, if we strip out food, energy, and trade, it's up 0.5% as well. Also up.
So you notice they're trying to strip things out. If we strip things out that are costing us the most money, then they don't look so bad. Okay.
Couple tenths more than expected. Okay. But in this case, sequentially higher than the slightly revised 0.4 in the rearview mirror. Up 0.5 would be the warmest since October of last year. Those were month over month. Now let's go wide and go year over year. Year over year final demand, or the headline number, 3.4, 0.4 higher than expected. 0.5% higher than the 2.9 in the rearview mirror. To find a higher number, you're back to January of 25. Strip out food and energy, stick with the year over year timeline, up 3.9, 0.2 hotter than expected, 0.3 hotter than the unrevised 3.6. That would be the warmest. Well, it would equal January of last year. To find a warmer, you're going into the Wayback Machine, Feb of 23. Now, the last look. So this is year over year, X food, X energy, X trade. This is the number I pay closest attention to, up 3.5, 0.1 hotter than both what we were looking at on expectations, and last month, 3.4. 3.5 would be the warmest since it was 3.6, and that was November of last year. There are some subtle revisions coming in. I pointed them out on the ex-food, energy, and trade month over month, and year over year, just ex-food and energy. So very subtle revisions. This report is warm no matter how you slice it, considering it's the second day of a two-day Fed meeting where no rate changes were.
Long story short, they are desperately trying to make it look better than it is. So then we get Jameson Greer, who is a trade representative for the Trump administration. And this is what he had to say about the GDP. Because as we know, after it was adjusted, the GDP only increased by 0.7%. So who are we going to blame, Jameson? Because, of course, you would never accept that responsibility. Now, would you?
So obviously we urge the Democrats to stop doing their shutdown brinksmanship. If you look at our last quarter, our GDP ended up being lower because of the government shutdown. Got it. Absent the shutdown, we would have been at over 3%. Right. So anytime the Democrats who profess to love government and think that government's the solution to everything, and then they shut down the government, it makes it incoherent, but it can have economic fallout.
Okay, sure, my guy. Sure. By the way, you had almost all of November and all of December, the holiday buying season, but yet you want to blame that. But that's fine. No problem. We see you, Jameson Greer. Jameson Greer. Jameson Greer, I'm going to add you to the list. President Trump, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, whatever the fuck you're doing now, and everybody else involved in our government. All of you who've been lying to us for the past year and a half about economic conditions. All of you that are lying to us that you're going to make America great, that you're going to be America first. So Jameson Greer, I'm adding you to this. Fuck you, you fascist fucks. Thanks. Appreciate you. Somebody just said that they saw the change to the gas prices, and I'll check this. Let's see if there is a change. $3.85. $3.85 a gallon. I filled up my car, which I rarely do because I work from home and I go visit my clients a couple of days a week. I stack them together, and it was $55. And I'm like, fuck, man. That's a lot of fucking money to spend on gas, considering I was told it was going to be under $2 a gallon. But no. All right, I think I have one more piece of sound that I want to play for you guys today, and then we'll call it. Let's see if I have this here. Is this the one I got? No. Two things. First, Lindsey. Again, we went through the exercise of spending $1 billion a day. Lindsey Graham has been in the ear of Bibi. Lindsey Graham has made numerous trips to Israel. Lindsey Graham is also compromised, which is why he's leaned in as hard as he has. So he's sitting down with Maria Bartiromo, and we're talking about the money that we're spending on this war as Americans losing healthcare, food security, etc.
Take on all this, $1 billion a day. Oil prices up 27% in a week. You've got the president wanting a $1.5 trillion defense budget in 27.
Hold on a second. Scrack one. You said in your comments, you said, when is Men's History Month? Dude, every fucking day is Men's History Day. The fact that we have to have a month dedicated to women's history, you might want to research that a little bit, because as far as I'm concerned, every fucking day we should be prioritizing the queens, and we don't in our fucking society. So for you to make a comment like that tells me everything that we need to know about you. Cover your drinks.
Idea that the Pentagon is about to come to you for $50 billion on these strikes to Iran. How are you going to answer?
Best money ever spent. Best money ever spent. Best money ever spent. Best money ever spent.
What? Best money ever spent? Really? Okay. That's good to know. Well, look at this. Well, hello, delegate. How are you?
I am good. How are you, Steve?
I'm fine, thank you. To what do we owe this honor?
I mean, I'm home. I'm done with session, but I would pop in and say hi. I was going to tell you, too. It's going good. I was going to tell you, too, in regards to Chad, I think one of the other issues might be, and I based this on the last conversation they had, it sounds like they're trying to get someone MAGA on there to level the back and forth. So I think that's what he's trying to organize right now. I guess there's somebody there that they have their eye on that's in the MAGA sphere. They're trying to get on the show to give mom and pop some ammo. But anyways, did you watch my show with them? It was a hot mess.
I did, yeah. So what we're talking about here is there's somebody who reached out to me about the show, and I reached out to Jess, but we're talking about the Necessary Conversation podcast and about whether or not this might be something that I would consider doing, and Jess has been kind enough to try to perhaps perpetuate that conversation. So we will see. We will see. We'll leave it at that. I did watch it. Yeah, it's a bit of a hot mess. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, Dad was just real aggressive, but I think he's gotten more and more. He's devolved, he's fallen down the pipeline more and more and gotten more awful over the last, I think, several weeks and months. So here we are. Anywho.
Yeah, here we are. So tell us about your life now as a delegate in Virginia. How's it going? Anything you expected? Any surprises? Anything that you're like this, I had no idea? Or is it more or less what you expected?
More or less what I expected. It's fast. We are a part-time legislative body, so we do all of our business in the even years in 60 days, and then in the odd years, 45 days. So very quick. So what that means is for the 6 week, basically at the 4.5 week mark, we are doing what we call crossover. So we have to have all of our work, all of our legislative work done on the House side, and then send it over to the Senate by that date. And if it's not done, it is dead. And then vice versa for the Senate. We are a larger body in the House. We're 100 members to their 40. So needless to say, we sent far more legislation over than they did to us. But I think the General Assembly total put out 2,700 bills. We did not pass 2,700 bills, but that is how many that left the body or went into the body for, process. I introduced 14. I had 2 of my bills incorporated, meaning they were kind of absolved into another bill that was similar from a senior member. And then 10 of my bills passed. One of my bills was really good policy. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to repeal right to work, which is something I'm a big proponent of. But we got collective bargaining across the table and pretty much included every single public service worker. So really excited about that. We got paid family medical leave for up to 12 weeks. We got paid sick leave. We had a slew of housing measures to expand access and affordability as well as supply. I mean, everything that we shored up the cuts from HR1 in our budget for things like Medicaid, SNAP, CHIP, et cetera, to make sure that we can kind of just keep things status quo, at least for the next couple of years. So, I mean, a lot of good work. We did not finalize our budget, but we should do that towards the end of April, and then the governor will chime in. So otherwise, pretty successful. And I have made some friends and enemies on the opposing side. So that's been an interesting dynamic. We have a couple that are pretty outspoken online like me. And I think that I was a good target just because I do have a loud voice and bullhorn online. And so drawing, ire with me gives them a little bit more of engagement too. So that's been interesting. But all in all, good. I mean, had a good time.
What would be something, so obviously state legislatures, they vary across the country, different sets of rules, but by and large, government's government. What would be something that people who don't know or never have been behind the wall, so to speak, would be surprised to learn about a legislative session?
So one of the things is, and it's something that I've had to combat some of my more louder Republican colleagues about online, is this concept that we as Democrats automatically endorse every piece of legislation that's introduced by every one of our members. There was a slew of bills to include some tax bills that were introduced, a couple that I supported, one kind of targeting the millionaires in our state, which I'm 100% on board with. And I actually thought the way it was written was actually really, kind of, what's the word I would use? Anyway, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't.
Manipulative, maybe?
No. It was very thoughtful in the sense that.
Oh, okay.
So we have pretty much a flat tax, and what I mean by that is our tax rate in the Commonwealth, state tax rate, is 5.75% if you make $17,000 or if you make $20 million. So that's a flat tax. I mean, let's be honest. $17,000 is not a salary you can like write home about. So the fact that the tax rate is identical for someone who's making literal poverty wages compared to millionaires and billionaires in our Commonwealth is concerning. The tax bill that was introduced, there was 2 versions of it, but one of them that I actually really thought was good was saying that the first $600,000 of your income remains at that 5.75%. However, if you make between more than 600,000 to 1 million, it is then taxed at a rate of 8%. If you make over 1 million, it's then taxed at a rate of 10%. So basically saying, hey, your first $600,000 are protected. They're going to run at the same tax rate as everybody else. But if you make over that, you're going to see a slight spike, would have added probably anywhere from $2 to $4 billion a year to our recurring revenue to make investments in things like education and Medicaid. So obviously I was a big supporter and proponent of that. Unfortunately, I think that there was a concern for my party that any tax raise would be a bad look. I disagree. And obviously, I'm a new freshman and my voice isn't too loud yet in the room, but I did talk about it to some of the other members, but unfortunately, so every bill that had pretty much the word tax in it was not put to the docket for a vote, meaning that it didn't even get heard. So by definition, it died in that way. I have members on the other side that basically alluded that not only were these bills endorsed and supported by myself and my governor, but even alluded to the fact that we had passed them, or like, I don't know, Trump even made claims. Did you see the governor of Virginia already raised taxes? Like, she hasn't signed a single piece of legislation, actually. But so I think what's been surprising is it's not surprising. I knew this going in, but it's just disappointing the amount of people that don't know what the legislative process looks like and how it actually works. And then the people that are living and breathing it and still lying about how it works. That's tough. I think the other element is learning that passing a bill is even for me, like I thought it was a matter of if it passes the House and then it passes the Senate, that it goes to the governor's desk, and it's not that cut and dry. If a bill passes the House and then the Senate makes changes to it, because maybe there's something they don't like about it, and they send it back to the House and we vote on the changes. If we refuse the changes, it goes back to the Senate, and then they have to say, okay, I want to do a conference report, which is simply them assigning 3 senators, and us assigning 3 delegates to have a discussion and debate and conversation about what the final language will look like, them coming to a consensus and having at least 4 of the 6 individuals sign off on the new bill, and then having to pass it again out of our bodies. So really, I don't want to say convoluted, but really complicated in the sense that it's not very cut and dry and simple. And so, it's been interesting to see the inner workings. And again, it's very fast. So there's, mistakes are made because I think sometimes the pace is the way it is, but I also think sometimes we push ourselves to make really hard decisions too because of the pace, which I think sometimes can be a good thing. So, it's
probably one of the frustrations that most not necessarily as informed Americans have with just the judicial process. I should say the legislative process in general, because there's so many layers, as you just described, how the gears can get mucked up. What's bipartisan? what's the roadblock? Why are we adding things? Why are there earmarks? Why is there pork? All that kind of stuff. And to your point, it's not perfect. You're doing the best you can with what you have. And knowing you like we do, and again, thank you for spending some time with us, you're always going to have human rights and education and healthcare and preservation of priorities that are progressive front and center. And that's all anybody can ever ask for.
Yeah. And I'm very excited. We had a great slate of anti-ICE bills that passed and made it to her desk to try to do as much as we can at the state level to protect our communities. I actually had a great bill, not necessarily about the ICE, but about translation services for our incarcerated, and making sure that every incarcerated individual was one of my bills that got passed and signed, or is going to be hopefully signed by the governor, that we now codify that the Department of Corrections has to provide written and verbal language for their incarcerated to ensure that they're being communicated to properly. So that was cool.
Wow. That's great. Well, Jess, thanks for doing the great work. I really appreciate that. And anytime you want to come back and update us on things, or anytime you want to offer advice to, we'll do this before we wrap today. What would your advice be to someone who wants to run for office, or I should say is considering running for office?
I would say if you're considering it, find your local orgs that kind of align with your ideas. Sometimes that's a Democratic committee. Sometimes it might be just an organization that, like you said, is for human rights or, environment or whatever, and kind of get some support infrastructure in place locally. Make sure your family is on board, because they are going to have to be a part of that process. And especially if you win, that is a lot of, they're giving up a lot, of your time. And so just make sure you have a great support system. But otherwise, I'd say if you have a desire to serve, do it. It was definitely a lot of learning curves, and I really enjoyed this experience, and I would do it 10 times over. But I also think that, I know that it is a big demand of people. So just know, and be able to balance your life and find things that give you solace and some escapes every once in a while. Running was the thing for me. And have a phone call with my husband at the end of the day when it's a really tough day. But just find the things that keep you sane. And then, go for it. But, fundraising, obviously, but finding your community locally beyond your family is huge.
I love that. Thank you so much for jumping in, and appreciate the update, and keep me posted. We can talk offline if necessary, but thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. And everybody, if you don't know Jess, everybody knows Jess. I'll say I'm fanboying, because Jess is one of the first creators that I found in this app that I really respected, who followed me back. I'm like, I've arrived. Jess Anderson has followed me back, and it was a big moment for me. So I've always been a fan, and I appreciate your work, friend. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good one.
You too. See you later.
Right.
Good to hear, right? So that's a little inside baseball, right? Jess is a fucking legend. I agree. All right, friends. What a great spot to stop. We'll stop right there. You heard the message. If you have a desire, find out communities in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city, in your state that align with something that you care about, whether it be education reform, healthcare reform, the environment. There's all kinds of groups out there. Find them. And then if you decide you want to do it, take the first step. That's all it takes. Take the first step. Remember, guys, there's a lot of Republicans that have been elected across this country because they ran unopposed. And I think everybody should be primaried. I don't want anybody. I don't care if they're the most popular Democrat, progressive, left-leaning, independent in Congress. I think everybody should be primaried. That's what we want. We want to have more voices. And if your candidate of choice does not win, then your focus is harm reduction. Thank you, friends, for being here today for our first take into What the Fuck Wednesday. It will be a recurring theme. Let me see who's live right now. Who's live, guys? Anybody know? Smitty. Good call. Let's go rate Smitty. Everybody go SoCal Smitty. SOCAL, SoCal Smitty. Tell me we sent you. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Until then, friends, remember, there's always something to do. So please